Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. You should, at this point, see my screen. I got my fingers crossed on this one. Please let me know if you can't. And as we're just kind of getting everybody on the webinar, as people are kind of trying to get on, etc., please feel free to say hello. I do have us on lecture mode right now. We'll come off of lecture mode a little bit later in the webinar, but feel free to type in the chat hello. Let me know that you're here. It's good to see a few of you coming on. I do want to mention a couple, actually just a couple simple things about the webinar tonight before we start. This webinar is very different than any of the other webinars that I've ever done. Hey Melinda, welcome. And it's different. I say that because although I have given this presentation in our live certifications, and the strategy coaching discipline, as we call it, is a very advanced method, advanced strategy for working with your clients, and it's something that we teach in Master Coach University to our top students, and that we present in our more advanced courses and our certification trainings. It's something I've never shared over a webinar before. So I'm very excited to share this technology with you. I'm also very challenged because I know that there's all sorts of different questions that can come up, and this is not simple stuff. I'm going to give it to you in a simple format so you can kind of get your head around it, and then we're also going to do, if I have a willing guinea pig, a willing participant, actually do a demo of utilizing this strategy or this discipline of coaching. But this is a brand new webinar that you're seeing here. But what's really cool about this is that I know that after working as a coach for about 14 years and working with every type of client and coach that you could imagine, from people that are about to lose their home and that are going through bankruptcy, to managers and CEOs and executives working in the largest companies in the world, that this stuff works across the board with anyone who is a human being that has basically a healthy neurology, which most people that you'll work with, chances are going to. So that's the good news. Again, like I was mentioning, the challenge that we have is that we have a short time to do it in, to present you this technology, and I could go on for all night or all morning if it's early in the morning for y'all who are in Amsterdam, and we probably have a few from the UK that are logging in as well. But in addition to that, I do know that this stuff works, and so if you utilize some of this, you're going to get results with your clients if they're just willing to stay on the phone with you. If they're just willing to stay in coaching with you, you're going to be able to transform them, and you're going to transform them, as I promised in this in this webinar, fairly quickly as well. So before we begin, one other thing that I want to make sure I cover here. Just hold tight, the crazy experience will end in a moment. All right, great. So one other thing that I want to mention about this webinar before we actually get started, which is that this is something I did not share with the public. The only reason that you're here right now is because you've already either purchased one of our programs, you're already a student, or you have logged into one of our free programs and offerings sometime in the past. That's the only reason why you're here, because I did not share this webinar with anybody in the public, in the social media, or just out there running around on the web. And I wanted to keep this small because it's a new webinar, number one, and number two, because I wanted to just share this with our closer students and coaches who have already worked with me in the past. This is something that maybe I might share with the public in the future. Probably not ever again this year, though. Maybe sometime in 2015. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. The webinar that you're in tonight is about how to change a life in 47 minutes. And I'll tell you right away, that's kind of an arbitrary number, but it's something that I know I can deliver on. It's kind of a big claim to make, but I've just seen this over and over again with utilizing these understandings. And literally tonight, if somebody's willing, I already have found a timer that we could put right in front of us on the screen, and we could time 47 minutes, and I'll be under the gun to actually deliver on that promise as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. So here's what we're going to cover tonight. First, how to understand your client's inner drives. What really drives them? What really makes them do what they do? And then second, we're going to cover how to get inside your client's head and transform them from the inside out. It's one thing to understand what makes somebody tick, and that's something that most coaches, I'll tell you, like 99% of the coaches I've talked to and worked with and just seen in terms of the delivery of how they work with people, they don't know, number one. They really don't know why their client is doing what they do, why they're held back. They really don't know. They might have an explanation for it. They might have bought into some theory that somebody else shared, but they really don't know what's going on there. And it's demonstrated by their inability to do number two. It's demonstrated by their inability to actually cause transformation with their clients over a fairly short period of time and really move them to another level. And some coaches will say, well, they're just not coachable, which is a great way to get out of the responsibility for you actually creating the change with the skills that you actually could learn if you're responsible for that. Or they might say, well, this person's just not ready to change. And usually what I'll say to that is, ready is for cakes and pies. You know, the fact is, if you have a client that's paying you, at least paying you to work with you, then chances are they're not just ready to change; they are begging to change. You know, they're on the precipice of the change that they needed to make. Yes, they've probably failed to make the change on their own, but that's what they're asking you for. That's what they're looking to you for, is to kind of get inside their head, figure out what's going on, rewire it or work with them such that they really get the transformation that they need. Now, some of that might be strategy, some of that might be good advice, some of that might be a little bit of accountability for them to take some action, and those are all important things, I think. A lot of coaches will say some of those things don't even belong in coaching, but I think they're great. I think they're very helpful, if nothing else. It definitely doesn't damage anybody to give them a little bit of advice or hold them accountable. But what is missing in that whole list that I just shared was the inner transformation that must go along with any external change, whether it be a financial change or a career change or a business change or a relationship change or a health or a fitness or a weight change, like all the external stuff that your client wants to change in their life. If there's not that additional inner transformation for them, then yeah, you might be able to get them to take some action for a while, and maybe you'll get them some temporary results, or they'll get themselves some of that because they already were going to do that. But chances are it won't stick, because whatever got them to where they are was not just circumstances around them. And we know this as coaches. We know that a lot of it is an inside game. A lot of it is their motivations. A lot of it is, how they think. A lot of it is their mindset. A lot of it is kind of that law of attraction that we understand. That's not just what you do. It's what you focus on. And in fact, what's going on inside as coaches, probably don't even have to tell you, that actually creates what's going on outside, creates your behavior, creates your communication with yourself and others. It ultimately creates your results, and then really, and on a very basic level, ultimately leads to your long-term goals, your long-term vision, and your long-term destiny. So if we want to create a destiny, we got to do more than just give some advice. We got to do more than just push somebody to take some action temporarily. We got to do more than just work with them on their strategic approach for something. And we got to do more than just give them a to-do list of stuff to do. We got to do more than that. And the piece that is missing, like I said in that list, is transformation, the actual transformation that almost every client you're ever going to work with needs at some level, either to support the longevity of that change or to actually even make it possible for the change that they're looking for. So that's what we're going to cover. And then in addition to that, as I promised, I'm going to be the trial by fire here, or perhaps you and me will go through a little bit of a trial by fire for demonstrating the strategies that I'll share with you before we do that. So you're going to have a chance not just to learn and see and understand the kind of the intellectual basis for this and the philosophy of this and the mechanics of how these changes happen, how to understand what's going on with your client, but then we'll actually demonstrate it so you can see how it actually works, assuming I've got somebody who's a willing participant in that process. I don't have anybody set up for this. I haven't invited anybody on the webinar for that purpose. And the reason I do that is twofold. Number one is that I'm kind of busy doing this stuff, first of all. But number two is that I really want this to be natural. I want it to be like just, I don't know who I'm going to work with, and the last thing I want to do is kind of have a setup so that there's some person that already was going to change anyway, and they show up and we do a nice demo, and it kind of works for my purposes of looking good, let's say, but it's not necessarily as natural and real as if I just open it up for whoever. And that's one of the really cool things about this, is that I don't have to know you, I don't have to have any plans, I don't have to know anything about you, at least at first, with the understandings that I've mastered over 14 years, and having the experience I've got working with a lot of people, that within about 47 minutes I should be able to produce that result. It's not a guarantee, so that's one of the things I got my fingers crossed about, but if I've got somebody that really wants to make the change, and it's a change that makes sense for these strategies, which most of the changes that you might look for, chances are do, then I think we'll have a really great demonstration, and we'll really be partners in this process to not only make a difference for somebody who's on this webinar, but also for you to learn more in more depth about how you're going to go out and use this stuff with your clients and the people that you really care about as well. Okay, so, and then finally, I am going to cover a little bit about the Master Strategy Coach Training and Home Study course that we are releasing for this is the first time I've ever made this available to anybody other than our Master Coach University students. And although we're still doing this under the auspices and under the sponsorship of Master Coach University, we've kind of, through my conversations with the other stakeholders in the university, they have decided to allow me to offer this as, number one, a home study course, and number two, the training that only Master Coach University students are involved in, to kind of a la carte to you if you're interested in being a part of that. So it's something we've never done before, and something I'm really excited to offer to you and make available to you during this limited launch as well. So we'll cover how it works, we'll cover what's included, and we'll also cover how to apply or to actually just get the home study if that's really the direction that you want to go in as well. And at the end, as I think I promised this already, if I didn't, I'll promise it now. At the end, I'm going to tell you how to get the slides to this presentation, as well as the full video recording of this webinar. And I can't necessarily promise that explicitly, because sometimes you never know exactly how technology is going to go with recording the full video, but it's fairly reliable nowadays, so I'm 99% certain that should be able to deliver you that video recording in the next couple days. I'm going to, at the end of this webinar, going to share exactly how to get your hands on that as well. Okay, so a little bit about me if you've never worked with me before directly. Currently, I am living in Florida, putting together, over the last couple of years, we've been kind of assembling our coaching offices on the East Coast. We also have Most of our team, or a lot of our team, is located in Southern California in our San Diego offices. But I live here currently with my wife and daughter, and that's just a quick vacation that we had after our last certification training last November in Orlando. And my company, JTS Advisors and Master Coach University, we have 14 years experience, or I have 14 years experience in coaching. I haven't really thought about combining that in terms of the experience of our team. We've got about 10 coaches on our team. You could probably chalk it up to maybe about 30 to 50 combined years of coaching experience. And these are the clients that, at least lately we've been working with: Vitamix, Prudential, Shell, Cisco, Dole, Remax. We've worked with a lot of real estate industry professionals, Four Seasons, AT&T. We work with the largest companies in the world, and as well as I mentioned, I just work with individuals, housewives, carpenters, people that are trying to change their life in more of a personal way, people that just want to turn their relationships around or start a business. So that's what's been really cool about the coaching work that our team has been able to do, and that in the past I had done mostly on my own, was that I just got to work with so many different people from different walks of life. And that's one of the beautiful things about being a coach, is that everybody's different. Every company's different, every family's different, every human being is different that you're going to touch and that you're going to work with. Now, there's some similarities. We're going to identify and talk about those tonight, so that when you come to a coaching session with a new client or even a new prospect, you're already going to know some really important things about them that's going to give you a tremendous advantage in helping them and making a difference for them, and skillfully giving them more value than just about anybody else that will ever give them in their life. Just because what you know about them that makes them tick, that is universal for all human beings. But God loves diversity. There's tremendous diversity in human beings as well, and that's one of the things I really feel lucky to have been able to experience over the last 14 years. And I wouldn't trade that time, even though sometimes it was challenging. Sometimes I lost a little bit more morale, and sometimes I even questioned my commitment to continuing this mission for my life. But through that time, I know that it's been something that's been irreplaceable, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really wouldn't. And by the way, this is just something I added just last month to these slides specifically when we're talking about kind of a little bit of introduction. I still coach pretty much every week, almost every week. And when I do have a coaching week, it looks pretty much like that. It's I do only coach one day a week now, but it's a chock full day. Some days it's 6, 7, 8 hours, and some days it's like 12 to 14 hours. So and like I said, I've done that for 14 years. And when I first started, I was coaching like 4 or 5 days a week. Had about 80 to 100 clients, and I don't necessarily recommend that for every coach, but it definitely gave me a lot of experience really fast as well. So let's start. Let's actually look at the first area that I promised we'd cover, which is how to understand your client's inner drives. If you want to change a life, if you want to give a client value beyond just some nice advice and a little accountability, even if you want to hold them accountable, this is helpful too. You need to know what drives them, not just what they want. Usually a client, when they come to you, they're gonna tell you what they want, right? And yes, that might be a bit of a drive for them, but you need to understand a lot more about what drives them, because our wants and our drives are actually two different things. Have you ever noticed that, and you might notice this with the client, you might notice this with yourself or just people that you know, have you ever noticed that when people talk about like the things that they want that they don't yet have, even though it's something they have a desire for, which is great, that they probably already could have had that, maybe had it 10 times over, if it wasn't for something else that was stopping them from getting it. And although obviously there's circumstances that could stop us, most of the time what's actually stopping them is not that they don't want it or they don't really care about that goal or that thing or that relationship or that money or that job or whatever it is. They have a desire, right? And in some of these individuals, they have a burning desire. I mean, they're really, really excited about this thing. But just because you want it doesn't mean you get it. And one of the biggest reasons that you may not get what you want, or that your client may not get what they want, is because their drives conflict with their wants. And we will sacrifice our wants. We will sacrifice our values in order to meet our deepest drives. And when that conflict is still there, or when when they don't understand what's really going on and can't get beyond it, or they have a coach that can't help them with that because they don't get that stuff either, well then you'll just have a lot of platitudes and positive affirmations and talk and some accountability with maybe some temporary action. And then after about a month or two of that, you'll have a client that probably didn't get very far, or anywhere for that matter, may even be more disappointing because they tried and they made an investment and they see that it's still not working and they're still not doing it, and actually have them less confident after coaching with a coach that treats it like that than if they hadn't even tried it in the first place. And ultimately you have a client that quits after 2 to 3, 4 months, and also a client that's not a very good representation of what's truly possible in coaching. So what are the drives? What really makes people do what they do? Because it's not just what we want. I mean, people, yes, they go after what they want, but that's not really what drives us. What drives us ultimately is survival. Ultimately, there's some very base drives that all of us have. It's universal for every human being on the face of the earth. I've never met anybody who's not driven by these basic survival needs. You can call them needs or human needs for lack of a different way to put it, but I usually will say these are the survival needs. And although if you talk to lots of different psychologists or read Maslow or hundreds of other authors in the area of human psychology and human performance, everyone will say that there's different drives, different values, different needs, and things like that. So there's all sorts of different ways to divide these up and describe them. You might have a different word that you use than the words that I'm going to share here. But the model that we're looking at here and the way that we've divided them up, I think is nice and simple, which keeps it easy for us to use when we're working with a client. And also, as I mentioned, it's pretty much universal. I've never met anybody who isn't driven by these 4 things. So let's actually take a look at these drives. I'm going to see if I can do a little drawing here. See if this works. That would be a no. Okay, I apologize. This is a technology fail. All right. Well, I'll leave it out like that because I can do a little drawing as long as we're not in play mode here. See how that works. Okay. All right. Let us resume. Okay. So these are really the 4 needs that every human being has. And what's interesting about these needs is that you got to meet them. They're not desires. They're not just values or wants, things that we could maybe get or not get. They are needs, drives that are survival based. They are hardwired in to our brain, to our nervous system. And we can talk about the evolutionary basis for that and why that happened, why we're driven in this way. But the bottom line is that it shows up this way. These are not options for us. These are a demand on every human being on the face of the earth. And the first one I'm going to talk about here is certainty. A need for a certain amount of control. Some people will say, I'm a control freak. And I would tell them, you're not a control freak. You don't need control. You need the certainty that you think the control gives you. A lot of people don't feel the need to control other people or career or situations or money or family or whatever, but they still get certainty met. They still have that inner experience of certainty somehow. Some people get it by really trying to control things outside of them, and other people get it just by, sitting down and relaxing and feeling comfortable. And other people get it just by believing that there's always a way to make sure that you're okay, and that no matter what, they're going to be fine. That there's always a way. So however it is that somebody meets these needs, they've got to meet them. We all have to meet the need for certainty. You can call it comfort. It's another way of saying it. Basically, it's the feeling that you can consistently at least avoid pain, and if possible, maybe consistently get some pleasure in the process as well. So some people call this survival. Some people call it security. You know, some of your clients might say, well, my goal is financial security, whereas they really actually don't care about the money. They really just want the certainty that they believe having that money or having a certain financial situation will provide them. They have a rule about where finances need to be, and so they call it financial security, and it's really just them feeling certainty, and they feel uncertain as long as the money is acting the way that they don't want it to act. Because there's plenty of people, either in this country or across the pond or in third world countries, that they don't have any money. And they feel a sense of security. They feel a sense of comfort and certainty no matter what happens with their finances, basically. So, what's the difference there is not in the need. Everybody's got that need for certainty. It's the difference in how they meet the need. And a lot of that's based upon what we're going to talk about in a second, which is a way of thinking about these needs that really controls the difference in people. Because this is what's same about everybody. Everybody's got that need for certainty. So that's the first need, certainty or certainty/comfort. Now, if you really do a good job in meeting this need, because we all have a need, a need to kind of at least survive at a basic level. And as we grow up, or as we start getting started with a career, or have a family, get married, etc., there are certain levels of certainty that we achieve. A lot of times at first, there's not a lot of certainty. We can't control a lot of things in our life, so we feel maybe a lack of that, an identity crisis, or a sense of what am I going to do with my life, or who am I, stuff like that. But after a while, a lot of people, most people for that matter, probably figure out how to survive. How do they get the basic needs of life met? And they start meeting that need for certainty. Now, some people do a really good job with this, though, and they've got tremendous certainty on like a 0 to 10. They get a level 10 certainty. And that's one of the things that we'll probably talk about more tonight as we go. But let me see if I can still draw here. Each one of these needs, just very simplistically, you can kind of measure them. And yes, this is a little bit. This is a little bit of a kind of a self-scored type of measurement, but you could just say on a 0 to 10, that you can measure your certainty, your feeling of certainty. Because what is this? This is really just an emotion. It's a feeling that we have. Some people feel it on a 1 or a 2. Some people feel it at a 5. Some people feel it at a 10. Right? So some people, they figure out how to get this survival thing handled, and somehow they're meeting certainty at 8s, 9s, and 10s. But what happens is that if we got so much certainty and everything's going along the same way, we'll tend to get bored. You ever be in that place? Have you ever been in that place before? You've been in a place where it's like, I just know how everything's going to be. You're kind of being pretty successful at the stuff that you've been working with in your life lately, at least. And you're like, it's like I should be really happy with this relationship. Or I should be really happy with this job or career. Or I should be really happy where I am with my fitness or health or weight. Or I should be really happy with where I am with my golf game or whatever the focus is, right? But you're not all of a sudden. It's like all of a sudden you're not fulfilled anymore the way that you used to be when you first achieved that certainty. You first achieved that kind of level of survival. And a lot of times the reason that is not because you're not getting enough certainty. A lot of times you are, like I said, like a 9 and a 10. The reason is because you also need, really basically the opposite of that. You need uncertainty. You need a little variety. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. So you get too much certainty. It's not like you don't want that. It's just that it's easy to get bored. And if you get too bored, you're going to start shifting to want to go get some variety. And you see this in people sometimes. They're very successful. Like you see a Michael Jordan who has, probably level 10 certainty in basketball. And then all of a sudden some things happen in his life. His father dies. and he's been successful in basketball. Is kind of at the pinnacle of that. Can't get really any better, almost, or you might assume that, or he might have assumed that, and all of a sudden he shifts over and starts playing baseball for a short time. And if anybody remembers when Michael Jordan started playing baseball, he kind of sucked at baseball. He never really got very good. But that's because he didn't want the certainty in baseball. He wanted the variety out of that. He wanted some excitement, some challenge, some surprise. He wanted some uncertainty. He wanted to change the game, so to speak, right? And so everybody has a need for uncertainty and variety. In fact, even people who are certainty freaks, control freaks, that want it all the same. Like you're an accountant or a librarian, or obviously something that's really stable. You're just super stable person. You're Mr. or Mrs. Stability. You still want this variety. And I can prove it because literally, if we were to measure your biochemistry, we were to hook you up to EEG and all these different things that kind of measure your blood chemistry, etc., and we have you do the same thing, in other words, the same thing over and over again, in other words, something that's completely certain, over and over again, you just do it over and over and over, just something completely repetitious, even if it's kind of interesting, completely repetitious, or even just the same kind of task for about 60 minutes, somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes, every human being on the face of the earth, if they continue to do it and they don't stop and take a break and go do a variety of other things with their time, their blood chemistry turns to acid. Adrenaline starts pumping through their body. They start to get antsy. They start to want to get distracted. I don't know if this has ever happened to you or not before, but it's really hard to focus on one thing for about more than 60 to 90 minutes for almost every human being on the face of the earth. And I would postulate to you that part of the reason for that, obviously there's different rhythms that we have in our bodies and biology, biochemistry that could probably explain this away. But part of it, I believe, personally, is your need for variety, your need for uncertainty. So even the most certainty-driven person, the most boring person you've ever met, they've got to get up and take a break and go do something else. They got to go distract themselves for at least 10, 20 minutes probably. They got to go work on something else at work or change what's going on in their relationship for at least a short time to get some of that variety. So if somebody gets bored, they go after variety. Now they're trying to do a whole host of different things to meet that variety, and there's ways to meet that variety to some extent. But the real key to get here, other than just that these are two things that you do need to meet, that for all of us, they're demands, they are also, in a lot of ways, if you haven't already noticed this, opposites. They're kind of paired opposites. They're paired with each other. You got certainty, and then on the other side, you got uncertainty. So the interesting challenge that God has given us, or the universe has given us in life, is that we need to meet both of these needs, but it almost seems like they're like the opposite of each other. But the cool thing is that I'm sure you could probably find different ways that you can, feel pretty certain about something, but still get a lot of variety, even if you're just engaged in that one vehicle, that one aspect of your life. If not, having a life that has tons of certainty and tons of variety as well. So although that life, and hopefully the aspects of that life, is a balance, you are not naturally going to be balanced in that process. Your client is not going to naturally be balanced in that process because we tend to, as individuals, weigh more heavily in one of these. So in other words, some people are much more certainty driven and they live more for certainty. They operate with that. And some people are variety nuts. They go skydiving and go adventure rafting and do all sorts of crazy variety stuff, right? And usually these people are very different from each other in terms of the lives that they lead, the personalities that they portray, and literally the choices, not just the choices that they make, but the kind of results they tend to produce in life as well. Now the cool thing is both these individuals could produce the same results they choose, but their chances are going to do it for somewhat different reasons unless they transform inside, which actually is possible as well. So those are the first two, certainty and variety, or certainty and uncertainty. Now, a lot of people live their lives in this certainty-uncertainty world. It's like their life is basically periods of certainty or comfort, and then periods of uncertainty. Now, some of us will call that stressful times in our lives, and some of us will call that exciting times in our lives. Just depends on where the center of gravity is on that continuum. But we'll have times where we're really certain and times where we're really uncertain. It goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But at some point in life, people want more than just, some entertainment and some consistency. People want a life that means something. They want a life, ultimately, that will give them a sense of significance. It will give them a sense of meaning or uniqueness or purpose or importance. And everybody has that need. And, a lot of people will call this the ego need, right? It's like, well, that person's, they're so significant. They want so much significance for themselves. They want to feel so important. It's just got a big ego. But everybody has this need to feel special, to feel unique, to feel like you're different from others at least. If not that you actually are important and there's something valuable about you specifically that really sets you apart from the crowd, that sets you apart from everybody else in your life, or everybody else in the world, hopefully, as well. And there's some people that are primarily driven by significance, and we can see these people, they use a variety of ways to try to feel like they're significant because it's so important to them. They'll use money or accolades or the people they hang out with, or fame, or they'll even, if they can't get significance in positive ways, by helping or contributing to society, they'll get significance in negative ways, by hurting themselves or others, for that matter. They'll look for a significant problem, basically. So we all need significance. The only question is how we're going to meet that need, how we're going to feel that sense of purpose or uniqueness or importance within ourselves. This is an emotion, a state of mind that we can actually be in. And everybody's got different rules for it and different control factors that allow us to either feel it or not. Sometimes there are clients that will probably tell you, you know what, I'm in this great relationship and I really feel good about the relationship, but I feel like I've lost myself. I feel like I've lost my uniqueness or my own personal purpose. Basically, what they're really saying, our translation would be, I've lost my sense of significance, my sense of my own uniqueness, my own personal significance. Because now I'm just doing everything for the relationship, and I'm not doing anything for me. I'm not doing anything that makes me feel like there's something just about me that's separate from our relationship, makes me special. So this is a need that everybody needs to meet, and sometimes we're meeting these at, at tens, and sometimes we're meeting them at maybe 1 or 2. But we all got to meet it at some level. The only question is at what level are we meeting that need? And the other question is, how are we meeting that need? Now, if you're going along in life and you got plenty of certainty and variety and you're actually feeling like you've got a life of meaning and purpose, like you're really doing something important, and maybe even that you're important, that your life has a meaning to it, at some point, that significance is going to maybe wear thin to some extent. And people will say, even there's a cliche that's probably based upon some level of reality here, which is it's lonely at the top. The truth is, it's really not lonely at the top. There's plenty of people at the top. The top is less crowded, right? There's less people that are successful, let's say, than maybe of mediocre success or low-level success. But there's plenty of people to hang out with at the top. There's no doubt about that. So it's not really lonely at the top. It's just that when a lot of people that get to the top, not everybody, but a ton of people that actually get to the quote the top have significance as a major drive. It's probably their top drive in terms of the way they live their life. And so when significance is that important to you, and significance is like the most important thing in your life, then you tend to miss out on the fourth survival need that everybody needs, which is connection. Because in order to connect, you got to kind of be at one with someone else, or one with God, or at one with your family, or your significant other, or your team. It's almost like you kind of got to give up a little bit of that significance. So somebody that significance is the most important thing, I mean, they really got a stranglehold on that significance. They don't really want to connect at that level. It actually becomes harder for them to do that, because in order to do that, they may feel like they might lose a sense of themselves, or a sense of what makes them separate from or different from the people that they could connect with if they chose to connect with those people. So ultimately, connection, you could even call this like the deepest need that we all have, because human beings, even right after they're born, must have love. They must have physical connection and bonding with their mother or someone. They have to be physically stroked, touched, and stimulated, or they get what doctors would call failure to thrive syndrome, and they actually physically die. So this is, you have, there's physical representations of connection and love, but ultimately this is a very deep need. Everyone has it. Even if we cover it up and act like we don't care about it, we care, and we have to find some way to meet this need. At least, again, at a low level, we got to get above zero, and hopefully we can get tons of connection, and even at a higher level, love with someone else or ourselves or something, in order to be truly fulfilled in our lives. And a lot of people say, well, this is all about relationships. And yeah, there's no doubt relationship could be a vehicle, could be a way that somebody can connect. But there are ways that, if you kind of set up with your client or yourself kind of the inner game, the way that you look at things, the way you think or feel or believe, there are ways that you could set it up such that even if you were stranded on a desert island, even if you were trapped in prison, in solitary confinement for a decade, that you could feel a tremendous amount of connection, if not even love, because you could connect with yourself, you could connect with your creator or with the universe, you could connect with all sorts of things and feel a deep sense of that, whether or not you're in the physical presence of someone else. Now, obviously, as babies, that's a little bit different, right? Because we're a little bit more physically oriented, and we can't see. A lot of our internal representations aren't kind of set up yet, right? But as adults, we have that power to be able to generate and create a sense of connection, a sense of love at any moment if we really do choose, and we have the power to understand what we need to tap into, kind of the control center in our mind for that. And I'm about to share with you what that is actually. So these, again, kind of significance and love and connection is a reason why I put them kind of at opposite ends of this little compass here, which is that they're also, you could perceive them as paired opposites. It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin, but total significance, you don't really get connection. Total love and connection is almost like you lose some of that significance, if not all of it, for that matter. But again, life is a game where you can balance your life, but once again, chances are there's going to be people that are more driven by love, and there's people that are more driven, at least operationally speaking, by significance. So those individuals, that client that you work with, they're not going to be balanced between significance and love. And the point of life is not to, perfectly balance these things. It's just to understand who you're working with. Like, what are they really driven by the most? We're driven by all four of these things ultimately. But your client is going to be driven more by certain needs and less by others ultimately. And that gives you a sense of their nature, kind of fundamentally what drives them most out of these needs. Ultimately, all of them they need to survive. They need to meet those to survive. So you can balance your life out from this perspective between these paired opposites, but ultimately you're going to make some choices as to the first, the second, the third, and the fourth ranked need for yourself. So you might even think about, and this we'll kind of get to this in a little while, what out of these four needs are your top needs? In other words, at least operationally speaking, the way that you're living right now, not like what really drives you, because at the deepest level, most of us have a drive for love and maybe survival at the beyond that. You could probably argue that. But in terms of the way you're living your life, what are you pursuing right now? What are you living for? What are you spending most of your time, money, energy up to? Are you playing a significance game, which might be for career or money or accolades or growth or something like that, so you can get the attention or give yourself the attention and the appreciation that you're doing something that has purpose or meaning, more significant a pursuit than what you did in the past, let's say? Are you going for survival? Are you in survival mode and just trying to keep things stable and certain for a variety of reasons? Or are you going after variety? Are you like, what, I'm pretty cool with my life as it is, but I'm bored. And I want to do this new coaching thing to get some variety in my life. Or I want to take that to another level and really make it a career to create a variety of ways that I can create an income, or the variety of ways I can contribute, but not just contribute in a little way, contribute in a significant way as well. So, or are you really just a love bug, and you've been taking care of your kids or your family or the people around you, or your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever it is, and you really just love to connect with them, and that's like your top priority, at least the way you're living. Just think about that for a second. So think about what the most important one is, the one that you would definitely not let go of, and then what would the second one be? Because the top two make the biggest, how would I put this? They drive you the most, and they actually literally control your behavior the most as well. It's really important to know what those top two are. Not to mention, know what the top two are in your client. Now, the cool thing is we can kind of notice these before we even talk to our client if we see what kind of life they lived. Because, if you can see they got a $1 billion company, and they, everybody knows who they are, and they're, kind of a mover and a shaker, an achiever type. Well, chances are significance is, at least operationally speaking, up there in their top two for their life to some extent, because they probably wouldn't have gotten there if they hadn't been driven by that, right? Or if somebody, kind of lives a quiet life and seems fairly comfortable and consistent, well, maybe certainty / comfort might be the bigger need. So you can see by someone's behavior, not just what they say, because everybody gives kind of lip service for what meets the needs of their ego, what makes them look good, what makes them come off right to themselves and others. A lot of us don't like to admit, what's really going on. But if you look at their life, you look at what they do, not just what they say, you look at how they react to different situations, the choices they make, that doesn't lie. So no matter what they're saying, some people say one thing and do another, right? So if you watch what they do, you watch physically where their life leads, whether it be just the way they use their body or the way they pursue different things in life and what choices they make, that doesn't lie. They made those choices for these reasons. These are all of the reasons. There is no motivation that we really need to worry about as coaches that's not somewhere on this one slide that we're looking at. So that's it. That's really what's driving you, me, and every human being on the face of the earth. And no matter who you're working with, whether that's somebody who's homeless on the street, on drugs, trying to turn their life around, or somebody who is the CEO of a big company, or famous actor or actress, they're driven by these things. And we can see these needs in the way that they actually impact their decisions and ultimately their life as well. So that's really what drives people. But again, part of this is looking at really what makes people tick, and part of what controls the way that somebody achieves these drives is something that we now need to talk about. Because everybody needs to meet these needs. But if everybody needs to meet these needs the same way, we'd all be the same person. And we of course know that's not true. There's people that are, have a whole variety of ways that they behave, different values they have, different desires, different goals, different issues. I mean, there's so much diversity in the people that you're going to work with. So what makes the difference is not the different needs, although you can value one more than the other, like we talked about. What really makes the difference is how. How do we meet these needs? Like I said, the only two questions you need to ask at this point with somebody is not whether they have these needs. It's at what level are they meeting the needs in their life? 0 to 10, if you want to kind of scale it that way. And then how are they meeting them? Like, what is their particular approach, their own personal discriminatory approach to meeting certainty or meeting significance or meeting variety? I just want to know how they're doing that, or what has to happen for them to do that ultimately. And now, although obviously there's external things we do to meet these needs, that's really run by an inner control center. And this is something I learned about 14 years ago from Tony Robbins, and he teaches this still to this day. But I kind of like to call this the control center. He used to call this the triad. And it's basically just a set of forces that happen within you that really control how you are going to decide to meet these needs, what behaviors and emotions you'll use in order to meet those needs, and ultimately what vehicles, like what things outside of you, what job, what relationship, what activities and behaviors you'll utilize in order to actually meet those needs. So this really is the difference in people. The needs, that's always the same pretty much. So there's different words that we could use. Again, like I said, Tony likes to say triad. You could say it's their mood or emotion or thought or state of mind or mindset. But ultimately, the mindset somebody has, what we'll a lot of times describe as the inner game, or kind of that X factor that's going on inside your client's head, is really a combination of three things. The first thing, and I'm actually going to come off the slides for a second here so I can write again. The first thing is a force of physiology. A force of physiology. Because ultimately, the way somebody uses their body, the way they move, the way they breathe, the position that they'll have, the movement, even biochemistry for that matter, is a control mechanism to control someone's mood, someone's emotion, someone's thought. If somebody just jumps around and smiles a bunch for 5 minutes, they're going to feel very different than they felt before. This really can control somebody's state of mind. You want to change the state of mind of your client or somebody that you're working with, just have them get out of their chair and take a walk with you. That'll all of a sudden they're like, okay, I feel a little bit differently. So there's all sorts of different physiologies that will produce emotions and thoughts that are disempowering, that are depressed physiologies, that are angry physiologies, that are fearful physiologies. And we know how to do it because we felt those things before. You can have a different head position, different breathing, different look on your face, different way of moving. And by the way, if somebody that becomes afraid, their biochemistry will change as well. We know when somebody's afraid, their blood turns to acid and their adrenaline starts pumping through their blood. By the way, you could give somebody a drug that will create that biochemical change, and literally somebody will start to feel afraid, even with no reason. So you could just change the biochemistry. A lot of people will change the way they feel with a drug that will cause a biochemical change, ultimately. Hopefully, chances are they're using that to try to make themselves feel good, not afraid, but there's drugs that can pretty much make you feel just about anything, ultimately. Unfortunately, that's the only way a lot of people in life have to change that physiology, or that they access to change that physiology, and the only way that they have to change their state of mind and ultimately make them feel maybe a little bit of pleasure or try to distract themselves from pain. And of course, there's consequences to just using a biochemical approach alone. Although, obviously, if you can use positive biochemistry like eating well and keeping hydrated and fully breathing and exercise and things like that to change your biochemistry consistently, so you will have a whole different state of mind, different resources and energies available within you as well. So if you want to change that state of mind fast, all you got to do is change that physiology, and something that you have direct and immediate, pretty much instant control over, and you can also do that with your client. Now, you might ask, okay, well, Jeff, what are you telling me to do? If we want to change the way somebody feels, you want me to ask them on the phone to stand up, put a big smile on their face, and jump around like an idiot and laugh out loud or something like that? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Now, a lot of coaches feel a little funny about doing that. And that I can appreciate that, but that's exactly one of the constraints that's happening in society. What's really acceptable is to walk around and be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just okay. Or things kind of suck, and people around you will commiserate with you. They'll be like, oh man, I know what you mean. Yeah, life is tough. Let me tell you about my problem, right? But if you jump around with a funny look on your face and are like, I feel just so ecstatic, I don't even know why, I don't have a good reason for it. People will look at you like, you idiot. What kind of drug are you on? It's really unfortunate. It's really disempowering that our society has set up societal rules such that we actually kind of encourage the physiology of no emotion or even negative or disempowering emotions. And we almost discourage or look down on the physiology of a lot of positive emotions. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them, for sure. So if there's a kind of reaction like that sounds kind of weird, I don't know if I should do that. Well, first of all, test it on yourself and see if it works. You can do that right now. You can stand up during this webinar, breathe fully, put a happy look on your face, put a big goofy smile on your face. Keep in a kind of an upright posture, breathing fully, and then make a move that you'd make if you just won the lottery, right? If you do that right now, in the next 5 seconds, I guarantee you're going to have a different state of mind. So that's a simple kind of explanation that once you check it for yourself, you can see it works. You do that with a client, they'll change their state of mind very, very quickly. But this physiology actually links up and controls how somebody ultimately tries to meet their needs. Now, there's more to it, to the mood or to emotion or to a mindset than just physiology. In addition to that, and this is something that coaches a lot of times talk about, which is language. There is a language pattern that we have, and some of this is just words we use, right? If somebody says, "Gee, I'm really screwed. I'm really at the end of my rope. I'm really, my nose is to the grindstone." They use these words, these funny metaphors, and it actually makes them feel a certain way. It actually changes, the words change the meaning, and the words change the feeling, ultimately. So part of language is just digital language, just the words that we use to describe ourselves. And a lot of coaches understand that. We use affirmations or what somebody's scripting is, or what their self-talk or whatever, to kind of help somebody change their words. The challenge is if they just change their words and they don't change physiology, then a lot of times those words will not really change the emotion completely, because words are actually only 7% of someone's communication and someone's emotion within themselves. Physiology is, I believe, I might have this not exactly accurate, it's about 73%. So that's why we talk about physiology first. We want to make that change early on. But also there's other elements of language. There's visual language. Like you could close your eyes and just visualize something, and you've kind of got a visualization that's languaging or communicating within your head about what's going on and what it means, etc. A lot of people will create vision boards, and the cool thing about a vision board is they create a collage or paste up a bunch of pictures of kind of who they want to be, where they want to be, who they want to be around, what they want to be doing, the kind of toys they want in their life, etc. And when they see those things, it's a visual language to them. It's a way of communicating externally and internally within their tribe, within their mood, within their emotion. Changes the way they think, changes what they focus on, changes their state of mind, and then ultimately changes and controls what they're going to do to meet their needs, or at least how they'll do it, how they'll meet those needs, and what they'll engage in. And then finally, there's auditory language. Because, like, I could talk to you on this webinar like, okay, well, we're going to talk about how to change your life in 47 minutes. And this is really exciting stuff. And I'm so grateful to be with you today. I mean, it's like we'll all be sleeping, right? So I could use that auditory, the tonality, the speed, the volume of my voice. I could use that in a certain way to get into a much less engaged, if not a much more morose triad, a much more morose state of mind. That's going to have me deliver results that are morose and ultimately have me meet my needs in a morose fashion. All of a sudden, I'm depressed and figuring out how to get certainty as a depressive, right? Taking drugs to try to get over it rather than just changing my tonality, right? So a variety of people have different tonality. Like for instance, you might talk to a client. I know I've talked to clients like this before. They'll get on the phone with me and they say, "Jeff, I need your help." I say, "Okay, great. What is it?" "Well, I don't know why, but all the time I just feel so angry. Why do I feel so angry? And you got to help me get out." It's like everybody keeps telling me I'm a rageaholic and I'm so damn angry all the time. Why am I angry? Right? It's like, well, maybe you should, realize that you're using an angry tonality, an angry volume, an angry way of using that auditory language. It's creating an angry triad, creating an angry state of mind. You're doing angry, right? So this language piece, there's a lot more to it than just words, And as you know, again, you can, if you can get to the point where you're working with somebody on their physiology and you add auditory, visual, and digital language to that, you're gonna get like almost 100% of shifting the way somebody feels, thinks, and also ultimately the way they behave. Finally, there's another pattern that makes a huge difference here, which is a pattern of beliefs and focus. And beliefs and focus are kind of a special category here. Beliefs are kind of the central conductor of the orchestra of success or failure. They're the conductor of the orchestra of someone's mood and emotion. Beliefs are like, think of it like a rule book for what's real, what's fake, what's true, what's false, what's good, what's bad, what they should do or not do, what other people should do or not do. You've got all these rules, otherwise known as beliefs, right? And those beliefs, ultimately, depending on a belief, you could go into a very different emotion, right? And beliefs will actually end up, what happens, a funny thing in life, is that as soon as you create a meaning, or what otherwise known as a belief, you'll start to use a language pattern that kind of locks that belief in. You know, like you're be in a relationship and a guy cheats on you, and it's like, okay, well, my belief, the meaning that you make maybe is that, you know, men are pigs, right? Like, you can't trust them. You know, that's just the way they are. And so you'll start using that language pattern to, like, talk to your friends about it. Like, you know, I don't think you can trust men. You know, they're not reliable. They, you know, all they want is this and this and this. And all of a sudden you got this language pattern that kind of holds that belief in place. It actually kind of gets you stuck in that belief, even though you didn't necessarily have to believe it forever, right? Maybe just in that one moment to get you out of a stupid relationship or get you away from somebody who really was a pig, let's say. So that language pattern suddenly is consistent because you keep using that same language pattern. It locks in that belief. And then you go into physiology of that. You know, next time you meet a man, you kind of stiffen up or you know, kind of position yourself away from him, or you get adrenaline rush because you're afraid of him doing the same thing. And all of a sudden that belief is then locked. And people will say, hey, why am I stuck with this mindset? Why am I stuck thinking this way? The reason you're stuck with that particular belief is because it's locked into these other aspects of the triad. It all kind of locks itself in. The belief kind of starts it, but all the rest of this kind of perpetuates it ultimately. Now the cool thing is you can change the belief right out from under this stuff, and chances are this stuff will change as well if you do it intensely enough. But usually you have to incorporate some physiology changes and some language changes into that. And there's some very intense processes that we do with our students and our clients in order to actually have that happen. And it's very reliable and very predictable. We can see the change occur as well. So beliefs will also have some impact here on that thought process, on how you'll meet your needs. Because some people will believe, well, in order to be significant, I got to make $1 zillion. Or in order to be significant, I have to have the perfect man or the perfect woman or the perfect body or this or that. It's all these beliefs, otherwise, like I said, known as rules, that say, if I'm not like that, then I should have a physiology that feels like a failure and language patterns that talk about why I'm not there yet and all that kind of stuff. You're wondering why you're not meeting your needs at a high level, or why you're pursuing certain things to meet your needs. The beliefs are orchestrating all of that. And they'll also orchestrate the focus, like what somebody focuses on. Because could you not focus on, or could your client not focus on stuff in life that makes you feel horrible? You know, that makes you feel insignificant, disconnected, and uncertain? Of course you could. You know, life is full of all sorts of stuff like that, full of crappy stuff. Could you also not focus on the beauty in life and the wonder of life and the love in life and the things that are really wonderful in your life or in somebody else's life? Of course we could. So depending on what we focus on, that can impact and alter this entire state of mind. So for sure, we just say beliefs, focus, and then also values and need structures. And what I mean by need structures here is which needs you believe are most important versus the other ones that you put at a lesser degree of importance as well. Kind of talked about that before, but that's also orchestrated by beliefs. Somebody might believe that being significant is the most important thing, or someone else might believe that being loved or feeling love is the most important thing. That's all orchestrated again by this aspect of the triad. So what's the same in people? What's the same in people are these needs that they need to meet. If I can get there, are these needs that we need to meet. What's different in people is this. The emotions, the mindset, the thoughts, the beliefs, the language, the physiology, the focus. This has infinite diversity. This is pretty much always the same with just about every human being on the face of the earth, no matter what culture they're from, no matter what they do believe, no matter what's going on in their life, or how great or how lousy it is, ultimately. It's really orchestrated by this, and this is what the target that client or that person or you are always trying to hit, ultimately. So the way that we hit that target, is with these triads. And we'll go into a certain emotion, and literally an emotion, you could feel depressed and get certainty by being depressed. To say, well, at least I know I can always be depressed. There's always something in life that's not that great. And maybe you even get a connection from other people because you're depressed, they feel sorry for you. You connect with yourself because you feel your feelings fully. Or you can go into a feeling of, let's say, anxiety. And your anxiety is giving you a sense of excitement and variety and maybe feeling significant because you're scared about something that you feel is important, right? That you decide is significant, so it gives it a lot of significance to be anxious about it, you know? So if somebody's really deathly afraid of something, it's probably because it's pretty significant to them, if nothing else. Or you can feel an experience of really caring for somebody. And if you feel a feeling or a triad or a mood of caring, that might meet your need for love right there. Just loving someone else actually makes you feel love. And probably give you a sense of certainty because you know you can love them, and significance because you know that you're giving to them in a special way. You know, there's all sorts of emotions and beliefs and language patterns and physiological patterns that can meet all our needs simultaneously. And we're not even talking about the external stuff, like the superficial stuff. The additional piece, though, is depending on the mood or the emotion or the mindset or the triad that you go into, not only will you meet or not meet your needs in that moment because of that, but you'll also behave in a certain way that will also then create a result that'll either meet your needs or not meet your needs in that moment as well. So if you pull up your blueprints that you had available to you when you signed up for the webinar, I'll just show you what those look like. And if you don't have these yet, if you go to, let me see if I can find the web page. If you don't have these yet, you should be able to go to I hope this is it. Yeah, this is it. So you can go to this page, masterstrategycoach.com/webinar-confirmation. Let me just paste that in the chat. And you can download these blueprints. So these are what the blueprints look like. And luckily I've got these blueprints right on my slides, so I don't have to sit there and use just the blueprints. But you can pull those out, and we'll look at actually how what we are talking about here actually correlates with the overall life that someone leads. So these two forces, the force of the needs that every human being needs to meet, and the force of your emotion or your mindset or your triad, language, physiology, and beliefs and focus, they actually fit inside of this, what you might call the tree of life in a human being. So if you can actually take that kind of wireframe that we had, and you can write in that, you know, the triad or emotion goes in that little triangle, and then the needs or the target basically in the trunk of that tree that you and your client is always trying to hit. So it's a major aspect of how somebody processes what is going on in their life, what ultimately creates the fruit in life and the results in somebody's life. And we'll get to this in more detail in just a second, but since we're really talking about what drives somebody, I want to give you some pretty intense examples of human behavior, of human beings, of human results, and how this actually impacts it, how this actually really controls it. Because we could talk about all sorts of great stuff, like somebody's really successful that's got, you know, a belief inside them that they can do it, and they have a physiology and a triad and a mood of positivity and caring and teamwork and motivation and all this stuff. And that meets their needs immediately for significance because they know that they're pretty special to be that kind of person, and comfort and certainty because it helps them know that they could probably make it to the end goal, and variety because they got a variety of ways that they can do that, and connection because people want to connect with them because they're pretty cool, right? There's a lot of successful examples of people that utilize these two forces to actually make some pretty cool fruits in life, to get some really great results. But let's look at the opposite for a second. Let's take, for instance, there were some kids, and they got a bunch of guns, and they put bombs all over school. And they planned this out over a period of a couple months, let's say. And the day that they do this, they set the bombs off, and they start shooting everybody in sight. They start killing everybody that they can. And then ultimately they kill themselves. Now you might think, well, why did they, you know, the question that probably the media was asking at the time was, why did they do it? Why did they do this? And of course, a lot of the answers would be, well, they're mentally ill, and that might have some veracity to some extent. Another answer might just be, well, these people are monsters, and, you know, they're devils, or, you know, something that really doesn't really have much of a basis in any kind of reality and can't be measured or proven in any way, shape, or form. And I wouldn't really want to ask that question, though. Like, why do these people, what's wrong with these people, or something like that. I want to ask a little bit different question. The question I would ask would be, how did they meet the needs? Because I know these human beings, they just needed to meet those needs. That's ultimately what they had to do, what controlled their behavior, what controlled them, what ultimately, obviously they had triads that didn't serve them to meet these needs in an empowering way, but ultimately they had to meet these needs. So how would kids that did this to themselves and others, how would they meet these different needs? How could they? Well, let's think about it. First of all, there's a lot of variety in this situation because who knows what's going to happen? And by the way, these kids, were they the popular kids at school? Were they the kids that that got a lot of accolades? Were they in sports and academic achievers? No, I mean they were not well liked generally at school. They were probably almost invisible to some extent. We know they weren't the popular kids by any means. So they probably didn't get to meet much significance in an everyday life. But when they find a way that they can just hold a gun to your head, and all of a sudden you're significant, they're significant to you, whether you like it or not, you don't even have a choice. They have control, they have certainty that they're now significant in that moment. So now they're meeting needs that they couldn't meet before, probably at 9s and 10s. This is a pretty significant situation. They have a lot of control and certainty around it. There's a lot of uncertainty as well in variety because who knows what's going to happen. And they did this in a pair. So they were at least connected with each other and probably connected with a sense of their mission to show the world something they wanted to show, if not connecting with their own anger or their own sense of depression or their own sense of desire to improve how they felt, at least in their life. So chances are they met all these needs, maybe not at 9s and 10s, but they probably met at least a few of these needs at that because they were actually willing to die for it. And that's actually one of the things that's really important to understand about these. If your client has something in their life, a habit or a vehicle or a person or a job or something that meets like 1 or 2 of these needs, it's going to be a force in their life. It's going to be something that, you know, it's something they don't want to let go of, probably. Something that influences them. If they've got something that meets 3 of these needs at a high enough level, it's an addiction in their life. It's something that's not just they want and not just something that they want to hold on to like an attachment. It's something that literally that it would be really hard, if not impossible, for them to tear themselves away from, whether it be a relationship or a behavior or a career or some other vehicle for this. If in your life, or if in your client's life, they've got something in their life that meets all of these needs at high levels, all 4 of them, they'll die for it. They'll do anything they can to preserve, protect, and then optimize that ultimately in their life. That's how powerful these needs are. People will die to meet these needs at a high enough level. Or at the lower side of it, if somebody is not meeting one or more of these needs, if a significance goes to 0, or certainty goes to 0, or variety goes to 0, they will do anything they can, by hook or by crook, to get that at least met at a low level. They'll go crazy. They'll make up multiple personalities. They'll do obsessive compulsive stuff. They will hurt themselves and others just so they can get out of that hole. Because if somebody stays there where they've got 0 significance or 0 certainty, the only other option is to really end it. And some people do end it, because really the reason why somebody ends it, generally speaking, if they're biochemically and their neurology is healthy, they end it because they believe that they have no choice and no power to meet one or more of these needs at even a low level. They've gone to 0, and so because they don't have any other option, they don't have any other choice, they just go ahead and end it. Because that is the ultimate pain in life, is missing out on one of these survival needs. So if you ever found a time in your life where you're in excruciatingly going crazy, or going through fear, or going through anger, or going through something that was like you were going nuts inside, or you were willing to do whatever it took, and you were even something that might hurt yourself or others, chances are this is why. It wasn't because you're a bad person, it wasn't because you're crazy, it wasn't because any of those things. It was because there was a need that was not being met in that moment. You could probably even identify which one or which couple that they were that went down so low that it was a 5-alarm fire all of a sudden. So let's do one more example. So World Trade Center, and some terrorists hijack some planes. They take over and they kill themselves and thousands of people, right? So again, you might ask, well, why did they do it? Well, they're terrorists, they're bad people, they're the wrong religion, they're horrible, they come from a culture that's horrible or whatever. But, I'd say it's probably a lot more accurate and a lot more precise to say, they had ways to meet their needs by doing this. How much significance do you think these individuals had by creating a world historical event? Even forget about what they did for their brothers and sisters, or their family, or their particular group that they were supporting and that they had been a part of. Forget about the significant effort that they made in their favor, so to speak. They just created history here. How many people in life, how many of us believe that we'll go down in the history books, maybe not our name, but the event, the deed that we did, will go down in the history books? Not that many of us, right? So they got level 10 significance from that. Not to mention, again, in their particular group, their families, once they die from a terrorist act like this, their families are taken care of for generations. So not only are they kind of worshipped by their family and by the other individuals, that's kind of a martyr, the other people in their group, but also they create certainty for their family. And by the way, with these individuals, with their beliefs, with their triad, their belief is, when I die, I'm going to go to heaven, and since I'm a martyr, I'm going to have 12, a dozen versions, or whatever it is, right? So they're going to have certainty there in the afterlife, the ultimate certainty, not to mention variety probably, and also a certain amount of connection with each other, with the team, and with their creator, because they believe their creator wants them to do this. I'm not saying that's true, I'm just saying that was what they believed, chances are. And if that's what they believed, then chances are they were able to do something like this, that a healthy person probably should never do to anybody, no matter what's going on. And they probably met level 10 significance, level 10 connection, definitely a lot of variety in this. I mean, that's kind of obvious because we really don't know what's going to happen. So level 10 variety. And probably with those kind of quote-unquote spiritual beliefs that they had, level 10 certainty. So they met all their needs. By the way, the beautiful thing about understanding this is that now, if you work with somebody, no matter how destructive they are or destructive they're about to be, or no matter how constructive they are, we can give them, as great coaches, we can give them a choice as to what they believe and what they're going to focus on that's going to help them to meet their needs, internally and externally. And my belief is, this is my personal opinion, that if individuals that have done these horrible things had the understanding, or had the choice at least, had consciously had a choice that they could do something different to meet those needs, and they believed it was possible, and they had the flexibility to do that, or they had enough coaching so they had the flexibility to do that, a lot of lives could have been saved, including theirs probably. And definitely not just the biological life, but their life in terms of who they became, who they are, and their full expression of themselves as a human being. Pretty powerful stuff, and it's a tool that, in my opinion, as a coach, you can't not use, and you can't not at least be aware of. Because not just the power of it, but because it truly gives you the power to at least understand what makes this person tick and what is truly driving them. So to make this a little bit more simple, because you may have a sense of what your own needs are, but how do you figure it out for your clients? Like I said, you can look at their vehicles or their behavior. Now, what do I mean by vehicles? Vehicles are simply the things in their life, like the objects, like the car or the house or the things that they have around them. They're also not just objects, it's situations, like the career they have, the family situation, the people they hang out with, right? So this could be not just things, but people, places, behaviors could be vehicles, the way they act, the way they operate. Also, even emotions could be vehicles, for that matter. Like, I get angry and then I can meet significance because if I'm angry, everybody pays attention to me. Or I get depressed and I get love because people kind of feel sorry for me. And I get significance because I get the attention. So there's a variety of different ways that people meet their needs. They're vehicles, and most of them, the majority of these vehicles, you can just see them externally. Like, you can just open your eyes and look at them, and they're there. So look at the vehicles, and you're going to see, like, okay, if somebody has that type of vehicle, chances are, the top need is going to be significance or love or certainty or whatever it might be. Also, you can just ask them. You can teach them this model. You can just tell them, hey, here are the 4 needs. Here's what it is. We all need to meet them. Which needs do you think are your top needs in terms of what you really need, and then in terms of your behavior as well. And then finally, notice their triad, notice their emotion, what you might call their fuel of choice. Now, I already mentioned this as a vehicle, but when you look at somebody's emotion, the emotions they habitually go into, those emotions instantaneously, as we mentioned before, meet certain needs. They meet needs. So if somebody's constantly angry, they probably get a lot of significance. If somebody's constantly depressed, they probably get some certainty, maybe some connection. If somebody's always like ecstatic, they might get a lot of variety and connection from that. If somebody's always determined and bearing down and working really hard and going into that nose to the grindstone type of attitude, maybe they get significance and certainty from that. There's a variety of different triads, fuels that we use that naturally meet different types of needs. So it's really important to take a look at these elements, and that'll give you a sense of what somebody is more driven by, what their top needs are. So I'll ask you, and we kind of already talked about this, what are your top 2 needs? And what are the vehicles that meet them? And I'm actually going to open up the chat here for a second. See if I can do that. There we go. And feel free to type in what do you think your top need or needs are? Out of these certainty, variety, significance, connection, what do you think number 1 is, and what do you think number 2 is? And then what are the vehicles that help you to meet those needs the most? Because I'm sure most vehicles in our lives help us meet some of these needs at some level. But what are the major ones? Is it a job? Is it money? Is it a problem that you're dealing with that's now meeting your needs? Is it an emotion? Is it a person? Is it something that you own or something that you like an object that you get to control? Is it a situation? Is it a house? Right? What? And just if you're wondering, oh, okay, how do I know what my vehicles are? Just look at where you spend time. Look at where you put all your focus. Look at where you're fulfilled. Look at where you put your money. Those vehicles, chances are going to be those things that you identify are going to be vehicles that actually, chances are, meet the needs, whatever needs are your top two. So feel free to type those in. Now, I'm going to move on as we go to the second part here. So now that we have an idea of what the drives are, like what really kind of controls and runs your client and runs us too. Now the question is, how do we get inside their head and transform them from the inside out? And this is something you can actually fill this in your wireframe, or just look at, I've got the finished product there as well in your blueprints. But the real way to do this is understand not only what we already talked about, but understand the whole picture, how everything contributes to how somebody's life is, and then ultimately utilize 5 different steps that are also in your blueprint in order to transform it ultimately. Because you have to have some process to actually make a difference here. So let me see if I can get this thing running here. Okay, so in this picture, we have already talked about triad. We've already talked about the needs. But what we haven't talked about is these other factors that kind of connect together to contribute to the whole, to the ultimate fruits that someone bears in life. Now, what most coaches look at in this diagram is the stuff that falls off the tree, the fruits of your labor. And by the way, by the time this stuff falls off the tree, your family, your jewelry, your money, your success, your image, your stuff in life, your situation, by the time it falls off the tree, it's already dead, basically. I mean, it's like that doesn't impact. I mean, obviously there's some inertia there, but that actually doesn't change the life. It doesn't change what's really going on. What's changing the life ultimately is happening in the trunk, and this is the part that most coaches and that most clients don't even see. They don't see the needs that are driving them. They don't see the triads, for the most part, that are controlling that. Now, you could obviously observe some emotions and behaviors in people. There's no doubt about that. But this, ultimately, think about this. Let me erase this for a second. Think about this like let me go back to the wireframe, actually. Think about this. There. Think about this triad like it's an arrow that's shooting at the target of the needs. You're trying to utilize a certain belief, certain mindset, certain actions, certain behaviors to hit this target over and over and over and over and over again. This is kind of like that endless loop that people are on. And this could be an upward spiral or a downward spiral. But ultimately, this is kind of like the habit that's formed. It's right inside of, let me go back to the slides here. It's right inside of this trunk. But again, if you can connect what's going on outside, whoops, sorry guys, these different vehicles with what's going on inside, like I got this car, it makes me feel really significant, I have my family, and I go into a triad of being very loving with them, and I meet the need for love. I'm at work and my boss is a jerk, so I get angry, and that meets my need for significance. It's like you can see that these kind of triangulate or kind of bounce off of each other. The trunk and what the action that's going on here, the emotions and behavior, interacts with all these vehicles, all these superficial things. And what most coaches do, they just look at the dead fruit and they're like, well, let's move this jewelry over here, and let's move this money and this boss over there. And they wonder why nothing really changes for their client. Well, they're just moving all the superficial pieces on the chessboard around. There's some value in that, but it might be a lot more valuable to get what's really going on that's invisible, the part that people don't even see that's really changing it all. Because once this actually transforms, different triad, different emotion, different needs being met at different levels, different emotions and behavior, you'll have different fruits. You'll have different peer group that'll come up, or different relationships in that peer group. You'll see different emotion showing up in a client, and these are measurable results as well. You'll see different focus of that client, different place that they are in their life, and different identity for them. Who they're becoming can change as well. And ultimately, then that will perpetuate different vehicles and different kind of superficial results that ultimately happen also. So that's the real kind of process. So how do you change that? Ultimately, you got to change, I think we could all agree at this point, you got to change what's happening inside the trunk of that tree. So if you're going to change what's happening inside the trunk of that tree, there are 5 different steps that's also in your blueprint that you need to take, or that you can take, in order to alter and transform what's going on in here. The first one is diagnosis. Diagnosis is really understanding what we already just went through. It's being able to diagnose this whole phenomenon of somebody's life. Figure out what's going on, what needs in the meeting, what triads are they going into, why, what vehicles are impacting that, and what kind of results are they producing or not producing because of that. You know, what's keeping them where they are. And the beliefs are obviously orchestrating which needs they're trying to meet and what triads they go into. But ultimately, it's figuring out what do they want, what's preventing them from getting it, what needs are they trying to meet, and what beliefs are orchestrating and controlling it all, and then what vehicles are involved with that, you know. So that's really what that diagnosis process is all about. So you can already start to diagnose just by knowing the basic intellectual framework that we just talked about here. Second, you got to get some leverage. Now, leverage is simply meaning that if somebody doesn't connect the pain and pleasure motivations within them, and what I really mean by that is the needs, because the needs are the controlling leverage, the controlling forces. If they don't connect that changing in a positive way is going to meet more of their needs at higher levels, and that not changing is that they're actually going to lose some of these needs, and it's going to go down lower or to zero, they're not going to be even willing to change, no matter what kind of fancy stuff you try to do with them. So the second part here, leverage, is really a matter of you could call it motivation, but ultimately it's the control surfaces that we just talked about and actually getting those to change. Third, you got to condition that. There's got to be some conditioning that goes on, because, you know, getting leverage is great. It's a good start, but when you condition it, then it sticks. And what I mean by conditioning is that there are a variety of things that people go through. They think in their head, they say to themselves, they feel, they visualize, they do habitually, and that's all conditioned into them. So you want to change that conditioning. The problem that a lot of like NLP practitioners and psychologists will do is they try to jump right to conditioning before they diagnose and before they get real leverage. You know, conditioning alone can give temporary help. You know, I know a lot of people that are, you know, experts in like, you know, phobia cures and stop smoking methods, and it's all conditioning techniques basically. And a lot of times these can work, but sometimes they only work temporarily. And usually the reason they're only working temporarily and somebody goes back to smoking or gets the phobia back or something is because they got some secondary gain that they're meeting their needs with that, and there wasn't enough leverage, or there wasn't a proper diagnosis, and therefore it was just a bunch of cool conditioning tricks that worked temporarily. So you don't want to let yourself get caught in that. Or if you're already doing some of that, you can simply add good diagnosis and good understanding of leverage and motivation and how to orchestrate how these needs are going to be met in different ways, and suddenly your conditioning will work 5 times as well. So that's the conditioning piece. And then fourth, you want to make sure there's an alternative, right? A lot of times the reason why somebody doesn't change their life, change their behavior, change their emotions, change what needs they're meeting is because they simply don't think they have a choice. They don't have an empowering alternative for themselves. Usually, if you've diagnosed properly and you understand what's going on inside here, which is really what to diagnose anyway, the empowering alternative usually is clear. A lot of times I'll actually make, let me clear this for a second, I'll actually make empowering alternative the third step, kind of diagnose, get enough leverage so they really know they're going to change, find the alternative, and then condition that alternative in after we've got the right and ecological plan for them, or the next level for them. And by the way, that alternative could be a belief, or a new triad, or a new emotion, or a different way of meeting their needs, new vehicle, or different needs that they decide that they're going to focus on meeting now because it's a change in their life. Or it could be all of the above, right? So many things could come into, or could be a part of, finding that empowering alternative. And you have access to all those because these are all all the pieces on the board, and all this stuff. There's alternatives to every one of them. There's alternative triads, there's alternative emotions, behaviors, alternative needs, alternative vehicles, alternative results that can be produced. So, there's the art comes out when you just kind of get to pick and choose. What are you going to do? Or what is your client going to do? You can support them in those decisions. And then finally, there's a final step called peer group. The reason that I added this in, and you'll notice it's really the only step that also is a measurable result as well. It's kind of a unique connection with peer group. And that is that all this doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens within a peer group. And so if the peer group doesn't help with the conditioning, or the peer group leverages against the change that this person could make, like they've got people in their life that are sabotaging or undermining, or at least kind of nitpicking and making it hard for them to shift their mindset and shift their behavior, ultimately this all could fail. They could go back, because ultimately we're pack animals, right? We want to live in a group of people that meet connection, and our ultimate peer group are the people in our lives that can push our buttons because they can take away love. Somebody can reject you if you want to go be successful, or go get fit, or go lose weight, or go make more money. All of a sudden they're like, well, why would you do that? Or why are you being so intense about that? Why don't you just hang out with me? And all of a sudden it's like, well, geez, they're going to reject me. All of a sudden now you don't meet that need for love as deeply. They push your button and you go back, and all this is for naught. So you got to make sure at least you take peer group into consideration to make this change last. And sometimes the peer group is the change. It's not just all this other stuff. It's actually changing the relationship, changing the people, or changing how your client is relating to people in their life. Their family, their friends, their business associates, their boss, their employees, their team, their acquaintances, whoever. In the way they actually use this stuff inside to interact with the friends around them, or with the people around them in their peer group. And sometimes you just got to walk away from certain peer connections because there's just no way you're going to be able to change. Like if you're in a gang and the gang says our belief is we're not going to live till 40 and we're your only family and life isn't worth living and society is horrible and we might as well just do drugs and sell drugs and hurt people, well, it's going to be kind of hard to change away from that if that is a very intense set of beliefs that they have, and all of a sudden you believe something different and they're like, wait a second, buddy, you don't get to believe that if you're around us. And you can't leave because we'll kill you if you do. That's kind of it's a dangerous peer group to try to be changing all this internal stuff. So you might need to just walk away, and maybe you can take somebody with you, but probably a lot of those individuals are going to stay because the peer group is exerting forces, group triads, group beliefs, group behavior, group needs that are being valued and being identified and met with group vehicles. So this, I'm making this messy here, but this tree of life, don't just think of it like an individual life. Think of it like cultures, societies, teams, businesses. They all have different beliefs and needs and vehicles that they utilize. And there's a lot of commonality within those peer groups that make it stable, some which are empowering, and some which are disempowering as well. So this is kind of the ultimate blueprint for making the changes. These 5 areas that we talked about, and doing those processes to ultimately change the roots of the tree. The roots are healthy, the roots shift, the tree will shift. the roots are dying, it doesn't matter how much sun the tree is getting, how much water it's getting, it'll fall over and die. And it's the same with our life. The root is where everything emanates from, and the roots are these 5 elements that most of your clients will never have access to and never even know about. But the roots are things that you can then influence, make a difference for, change, and that ultimately can make that change happen. So how do you change a life in 45 minutes? Well, you just got to find out these 3 things. What does your client need to change? Okay, now you're going to hopefully find out what they want, like what their goals are, what they're after. But then in order to get there, they got to make some changes. And those changes are not just logistics. You know, if you really want to change somebody's life, I'm not just talking about like a strategy or something. I'm talking about their life. You're really going to be a life coach for them? Then you're going to need to take a look at more than just the mechanics in their life and what's going on around them, the dead fruit that's around that tree. You need to look at what they really need to change within themselves. What do they need to change? And then, second, how do they meet their needs by not changing? You might say, well, wait a second, they're not meeting their needs by not changing. They want to change. They're in pain. They're suffering. They're tired of this life. They really want to make it, they want to see something different happen. Well, if that's really true, they would have already changed. The reason they came to you, and they're still complaining about how it hasn't changed yet, is because the reason why somebody wants to change is because some of their needs are not being met at the highest level possible, and they think that if they believe they make a change, they'll start meeting those needs at higher levels. The reason somebody doesn't change, even if they want to change, is because some of those needs are already being met. Like different needs are being met, and those needs are being met at a high enough level that they believe that if they changed, they would have to give up some of those needs, and they don't want to give it up. The problem with change, the problem with making a transition in life or in business or in a relationship, is you can't get to second base with one foot still on first. You got to let go of everything you've been attached to. And most of the attachments are not the needs, because you can meet your needs in a million different ways. There's a million different ways to feel significant, a million different ways to feel connected, a million different ways to feel a variety or growth or uncertainty. There's a million different ways to feel love or connection or loved. Why do you only have a few? It's because you're attached to those beliefs. You're attached to those tribes. You're attached to those vehicles. You believe that that vehicle is actually what meets the needs. No, it's not. It's your belief about it, and it's a tribe that you go into when you get around that person or that job or that money or that success, or you think about it. That's all it is. Because all vehicles are passing. Your job will come and go. Your significant other, your family, they're going to come and go. People die. People leave. People change. You know, your situation will come and go. Like pretty much everything changes. Change is the one constant in life. All vehicles are passing. Only you and your soul and your kind of this internal part is consistent until you die, of course, and then that goes away too. The only thing that's permanent is what is change, and the only way to ultimately meet your needs consistently is by being able to change your beliefs and change your tribe, change your vehicles in order to meet those needs ultimately. So that's really what you need to understand about your client, is not just what do they need to change. That's good. That's a good start. But then you want to know, like, what needs are they already meeting that maybe they think they'll lose? Maybe they really think they're going to lose out on some of those needs if they change. In fact, I'd say it's certain that they think that they're going to miss out on some of those needs, or else they already, like I said, they already would have changed. The only question is, which needs are they? And what are the vehicles and triads that are currently meeting those needs? And then finally, you want to know, how will they meet their needs at a higher level when they do change? Not just how they'll meet the needs that are not being met, but how they'll consistently meet the needs that are already being met. Because they won't just go for the other needs and let go of some. You want to be able to fulfill all of the needs. So then it's really self-reinforcing, and then they never go back. Also, one of the other elements, and I really didn't put it in here, but I'll mention this. This is kind of a more advanced part of this, which is that in order for somebody to really change, they don't just have to perceive that they'll meet more needs by changing. They also have to perceive that a lot of people, in fact most people, have to perceive that there's going to be pain if they don't change. And that pain within this model comes in the package of some of those needs are no longer going to be met. and focusing on the pain of that. You know, and you might say, well, Jeff, that's negative. I don't want to be negative. But, you know, a little bit of pain is a damn good thing. It gets you to remind yourself that, you know, you need to change the meaning, change the beliefs, change what you're doing, change your vehicles, change your triad, change your emotion, change what needs you're trying to meet, change your focus. Because if you continue to have that focus, you continue to have that job, you continue to have that same life, it's going to get painful eventually. At least boring. And if you stay there, it's not going to be as fulfilling. And you know that's for your client, or it could be even for you, if the shoe fits. So you want to know not just how they'll meet their needs at a higher level, but also the needs that they can, that you kind of, it's almost like you have to show them how some of their needs are no longer going to be met, like, at all, if they don't change. When they start to see that, they will change. And they'll probably change right in that session, like I said, in about 47 minutes. So now, as I promised, I'm going to open it up. And again, this is, we have a very small group tonight, again, because I didn't share this with the public, and I think this is it's kind of a special subject that, you know, some of the things I do webinars are about are maybe a little bit more exciting for people as well. But this is really what excites me. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to be here with our little bit smaller group. But so this is something that, you know, it's not guaranteed that we don't have to do this. But what I'd like to offer you is that I'm going to give myself 47 minutes, and for if you would like, if you're looking for some change that you're looking for, obviously there could be all sorts of technical stuff that we could talk about. And that's okay. That could be part of the change that you need to make. But the biggest thing that I'm looking for is something that you know you need to change that's not just logistics. In fact, if the bigger the problem, the bigger the issue, the bigger the pain, the easier a lot of times it is. Because this becomes more clear as to what's really going on as well. So what I'm looking for, and I'm going to take this off the slides because you don't need to stare at that graphic the whole time. And I'm going to pull up my timer. Little online timer that I just found today. And I gave myself 47 minutes on the clock. And the chat is open. I'm also there's just not that many, again, we don't have the numbers such that we're going to have a lot of background noise. So I'm going to take us off of mute in a second. And if you think that you might fall into the category of, you know, the area that I might be looking for is something that's really big that you need to change, that's not just logistics, or some goal you're working on that you've had trouble with, or it's almost like it's not possible anymore, or a big problem that you just haven't been able to get past, like that's really, those kind of things are mainly what I'm looking for. And so you can type in the chat if you're interested in having this interaction and making this change, or you can even speak up because I just took us off of mute, as you can tell.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. So
okay, good.
Whatever you got is working.
I was just told what I typed in about myself.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that has a lot to do with my coaching. I believe that has a lot to do with my doubting myself. I believe that has a lot to do with everything.
Okay. All right. So here's what I'm going to do, Kenyatta, to start. I'm just going to read what you typed in the chat so everybody has a chance to hear it. And then once I've read through that, I'm going to start our little timer here, and we're going to be on the clock, so to speak. Give us a little bit of urgency there, and then we could just start going back and forth here. So here's what you typed in. Needs, love and connection and variety, quickly shifting to significance and variety. Okay. I believe that I'm love-driven, and because of this, I find myself in a domestic/controlling situation. Okay, makes sense. I'm making the decision to move back home to Tennessee from Texas. All right, clear. All right, that makes a lot of sense. So we've got, you know, the situation is that you've got a bit of a controlling domestic situation. You're looking at making a geographic move. So listen closely, guys, because we're already hearing, like, there's vehicles that we're hearing about, like, here's what I'm going to do externally, right? Here's what's happening in a relationship. Here's what's happening in terms of where I'm going to be. So those are all vehicles to some extent. And we don't know the exact impact of those yet because we haven't asked Kenyatta. But we do know that there's some vehicles at stake. Now, most coaches, what they would do, and I promise I will start the clock in just a second as we begin the conversation. But what most coaches are going to do is they're going to talk about, okay, tell me about this relationship and tell me about the where you're going to live and tell me about how you're going to get there. It's like getting into all the mechanics of it. Now, some of those mechanics are going to help us, right? And we do need to deal with those, maybe, but that is not what's actually causing things to be the way they are. And that ultimately won't be what long-term, at least, will cause a real life change for Kenyatta in the way that she really wants as well. Okay, so with all that said, I just started our clock. Everybody should be able to see that. And Kenyatta, what I want to start with is because I think I understand kind of what you're looking at in terms of a little bit of the situation. I don't know all the details. And then a little bit about a decision that you're looking to make. So can you just describe to me first, just as we're getting started here, what is like the biggest change you need to make, or the biggest problem you're trying to solve or eliminate, or like the biggest like desire, like what is it the big thing is that you're trying to get or fulfill? And there's different ways that obviously you could describe, like what is the change that you want or that you need to make. You tell me. You said getting back around my community, my love zone. So I should be able to hear you. So just tell me verbally, what are you looking to see happen here? What do you want?
I am looking to get back to where I feel powerful. And the interesting part about the diagram is that moving from love and connection, there's a difference there. And I was having a little bit of trouble differentiating what was what as far as significance on one side of the scale and love and connection on the other.
Yeah, so if you heard what Kenyatta just shared, she wants to get back where she feels powerful. Now, I'll ask you, Kenyatta, when you're talking about getting back where you feel powerful, what need would that be? If you felt powerful, what need would you be meeting with that feeling of feeling powerful?
Well, that's the thing. It would be significance.
Yep.
But I've always thought it was love and connection.
Well, you need love, but you also need significance. Right now, the problem, the challenge, the thing that's the most missing for you is significance. That's why you're talking about power. Or at least that's your focus right now. It may be love as well, I don't know, but at least that first phrase when you said I got to get back to being powerful, like that's about significance. So either you feel a lack of significance, so you're just trying to get that, which is understandable, or you're like, well, in order to get what I really want, which could be other needs, or it could be a different situation or whatever, I need to be significant, or I need to have that significance before I can get that. So you either just feel the lack of significance and you want to fill that hole, or it's like, well, you got some significance, but you think that is the key to getting what you really want. So it could really be love. I don't know. So backing up here, tell me what you want again. Tell me what well, like if you really had it perfect, and a lot of coaches will say this, like you have the magic wand, have it the way you want it, right? Like what is the real change that you're looking to make, or what's the I mean, because I heard you saying you got to get back to power, but I guess here's a different question I would ask you. What needs to change in order for you to have that? Like, is there something preventing you from having that power? Or is there something like if your life was different, then you would experience that, and you would have it, and you'd be where you'd want to be?
I believe that making this move will put me back in the driver's seat. Right now, I feel like I have no vehicle, literally. It's an actual fact.
Okay, so you really don't have any vehicle.
Right. The other thing is that I really don't have, I don't have a support group.
Okay.
That will support me no matter what as in family. You know, I have
Yeah, I got it.
friends and things, but I don't have that unconditional love and support right now.
Okay, great. So let's talk about it because we if you just listen to what Kenyatta said, there's a ton of valuable pieces just in terms of how what's going on with her needs. So she's like, I need to get back in the driver's seat. And yeah, I got that you don't actually have a physical vehicle, but in addition to that, she's really talking about certainty here. She doesn't have a lot of control right now. Is that fair to say, Kenyatta?
It's fair.
Okay, so at least you're not feeling it. You know you have control. You know you have some power, but you're not feeling the certainty. And as you mentioned before, you're not feeling the power. You're not feeling the significance, at least in this particular situation you're in. In addition to that, you got friends, so you probably get some connection, but you don't have, like you said, the unconditional love. But it was also not just love; it was love/support. What the question is, what support? Like, what do you need support for?
Um, just in building my coaching business,
Okay.
there is, like I said, the situation that I'm in, there is no true understanding of what it is that I do. And it's not because I have not explained it, it's
I
because
got
they
it.
just don't want to,
They don't. Yeah, they don't want to get it. So
it's a dream killer and it's also like a leech to my soul.
So when you're around the people that are like that and you talk about your coaching business and you try to get support for the coaching business, what happens?
Um, there might be a moment of, well, just go ahead and do it.
Uh-huh.
But for the most part, it's what is it you do again? I don't even know what you do, and why are you trying to do that? And that doesn't make any sense. And you don't even know who you are. And, just a whole lot of that
I got you.
going
So
on.
you can hear,
Yeah.
forget about the words, you can hear the tonality there. That was like, criticism, cynicism, and all that kind of stuff. She didn't exactly get love for that. In fact, the people that said that, whether it was a one person or a zillion people or whatever, they actually took away love for that. So in other words, in order for you to do what your mission is, in order for you to really get not just support for it, forget it. Even if you didn't have support, you're just going to do it and really express yourself in that way. All of a sudden, you got to lose love in order to do that right now. Now we're talking about a major issue that would stand in the way of your goal. Not to mention, if somebody treats you like that and they're a source of support, i.e., maybe certainty or a sense of significance, they help you feel significant because they approve or whatever, and they give you some of this as well. Not just love and not just connection, but also maybe they actually have some keys to making sure you have the resources to do your business. Then it's like when they treat you like that, you're probably going to question whether or not you can get that from them in your endeavor to pursue this as well, especially if the best support they can give, or they do give, is, well, just go ahead and do it. Because that basically is saying, well, you're on your own with that. So you're not only going to lose love for doing it, you have to supply all your own certainty and all of your own sense of significance then for it. Does any of this sound like it resonates? Anything I'm wrong about so far, or any other details that you think are important?
No, you got it.
Okay. All right, so it makes total sense. So we can understand why, I could understand at least why you'd want to move, because it's like, well, if I'm going to have the life that I desire, in other words, what you want, which is the coaching business and those things, and yet I'm not, and yet actually have love and have some certainty and significance along with that, I can't be where I am, because the people I'm around right now, they'll either take it away because I'm going after what I want, and that's not cool, because this stuff is survival. It's like all of a sudden you're not surviving. Or I'm on my own, and so then I have to supply all of my resources on my own, and maybe I don't know that I can do that right now. And by the way, that might be a fair thing to assume, depending on what kind of resources you're focused on and what's going on. Because we do want to be not completely unrealistic about, what it's going to take for you to be able to pursue what it is that you want to pursue. So it makes total sense. So basically what I'm hearing that you want is you want to pursue the business, you want to get some support, and you know that you're not going to get that where you are. So you're like, okay, I need to move, and if I move, then, well, you tell me. If you move, then what's going to change?
I will not be with that individual anymore.
Yes.
And we've been talking about that too, so.
I get it. All right, and this you're talking about your husband?
No, I'm talking about my man who is also my 2-year-old's father.
Oh, okay, all right. So but he's your partner.
Yeah, we're
Bottom
not
line.
married.
Okay,
Say that again?
he's your partner. Bottom line, right now.
Right.
Okay, all right, I'm
Right.
with you. Okay, so he's the father of your 2-year-old, and he's your intimate partner. For how many years have you guys been together?
3.
Okay, so you've been together 3 years, and you have a child together. So if you leave, what you'll get is what? The support?
Well, for instance, my family, I've already talked to them and told them that I was moving back that direction. And I don't know how they did this, but they've already started giving me projects. Like, when you get here, I need you to help me build my business type thing.
Nice.
So it's like, oh, don't tempt me, don't play with me like that. So I'm not getting any recognition here.
Yep.
It's like it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Well, let's just figure it out. Let's look at what it's like there for right now. So, in the situation you're in your current relationship, and in where you're living, and with the people, with your family as it is around you, how significant do you feel on a 0 to 10? 0 being completely worthless, and 10 being like the most important person you could possibly be for yourself and your family. Where would it be in present time?
Well, and that's an interesting question that you asked me because I'm not around my family. I'm around their family.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I mean. That's kind of like your immediate family currently. That's what I meant. Is the people that you're
That would
around
be a
now?
0.
Yeah, okay,
That
so
that would be a 0.
yeah, and I could hear that. I mean, just what you said. It's just like I can't remember the word you used, but it was basically it was looking at that level of significance. It's like not feeling like I got any kind of support. A different word that probably really meant the 0 significance. How certain do you feel? Like how in your situation currently with the people that are around you, with your man and living where you are, 0 being like I don't know what the heck is going to happen and what kind of if I have any control, and 10 being this is totally predictable. I know exactly what's going to happen. How much certainty do you have?
I am a fixer, so it's hard for me to answer that question plainly.
Okay. Well, you mean you believe that you can fix the situation? That gives you some certainty in and of itself.
I don't want to.
I got that you don't want to, but how certain? This isn't about what you want. That's why we're having the conversation because if you would just
Okay.
do what you wanted, you'd be doing very different things. What's controlling the situation is the needs that you're meeting or not meeting. So I'm not talking about whether you're in pain or not. I got that you're in some pain right now. I can appreciate your suffering. What I'm asking is about how certain are you in your current situation? Like how predictable is it? I guess would be the way I would put it. 0 being like you don't have any idea what the future holds and what's going to happen next. 10 being it's totally predictable. I know exactly what's going to happen day to day.
I don't know why I'm having such a hard time giving you a straight answer on that. Predictability to me would be I know what's going to happen with him. I just
Okay.
have no idea what's going to happen with me and mine
Okay. Why not?
because the tides are not the same.
Because the what?
The tides are not the same.
What do you mean?
They will be taken care of, but me and mine will not.
Okay, got it.
So I guess in that
So
I guess
how?
in that sense, then 0.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So yeah, because I mean, really, if you just think about that, you really don't know if you're going to get taken care of or not. That's kind of like that's where your certainty is like real low. Like if it's not a 0, it's probably a 1 or 2. Does that make sense?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm not talking about being certain about your vehicle. See, your relationship right now, your partner, and the people that are around him, they're vehicles, right? Like you don't know, you can probably predict them and kind of plan out like what do you think they're going to do. But what you can't plan, how would I put this? What you don't necessarily what we're focusing on here is not the vehicle, it's what are you getting from the vehicle. And right now what you're saying is you're at a 1 or 2 in certainty in terms of what you're actually getting from that vehicle.
Exactly.
Makes total sense. Okay, so you're 1 or 2 in certainty, 0 in significance. We don't even really have to go that much farther, but let's do it just to shape this and just to clarify. In terms of love, or maybe not love, but at least connection, how much are you getting in your current situation? How much are you feeling in your current situation? 0 being none at all, 10 being, more love, the most loved you've ever felt.
Oh dear. Okay. All right. So, we spent a lot of time together. So I would have to say,
Yeah.
Maybe searching that. What does that mean? I'm looking over here at intimacy, right? But you're down at love and connection.
Yeah,
so
we're
do
just
I
talking
go
about love
sharing
and
intimacy?
these are just different. These are just different words. Yeah, don't worry about the individual words. I'm just talking about. Just a simple question: how much love, how much connection are you feeling in your situation as it stands? And you don't necessarily have to have intimacy to have that. You might have different rules for what it takes for you to feel that, right? But the question is, on a 0 to 10, from him or from just living the life that you have with your friends around you, etc., how much connection do you get? How much love do you get?
He is my connection, so okay. I would say a 3.
Okay, so you still get some, but it's pretty low level.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely not love though anymore. Just basically connection. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with what you're going with right now.
All right, fair enough. And by the way, guys, as you're listening to this, you can hear she's having to really think through and consider where is she on this. That's part of the uncertainty here, because she had a history with him where there were times like at 2 years ago or 3 years ago when you met him. How much connection did you get in the relationship at that time out of 0 to 10? How much love did you get at that time?
Well, and that's the thing, because I thought I was getting a lot. So I would say it was I would say it was closer to an 8.
Yeah, so she was at an 8 before. That's one of the reasons why she's pausing with this, because that's pretty fast change. She was at an 8 before, now she's at a 3. She really is at a 3. It's just that because she knows what will go on, and she's got some certainty about them, but just not a lot about how she'll be taken care of. She's trying to figure out, like, am I really not getting love? Because at some point she did, and she still anchors that love to him to some extent. So you think about him, maybe feel at least some of what happened in the past. So there's some uncertainty about this, but the reality is currently it's pretty low. Is that fair to say?
That's fair.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So, and then finally, variety. Like, how much variety do you get in your life currently in your situation with his family and with him and with the way you guys are taking care of? 0 to 10.
That would be a 0.
Yeah, okay, 0. So by the way, that's another reason why she was like, okay, I'm not really sure about the certainty, because there are some things that she's certain about in the relationship that are probably at 8s, 9s, and 10s. Like, I know he's going to do this. I know the family does this. I know this is the way they are. Like, she's gotten to know them, right? She's been there for like 3 years. But there's no variety. Like, nothing is changing, right? But what part of the certainty that she needs in terms of support and love and all that, that's not happening. So now, even though it's predictable and consistent the way that life is going, her certainty is going down because of her rules and thoughts and ideas about what, some of the stuff she's seen as well. We don't even have to get specific at this point. We just know something's going on there, because if no variety and very little certainty that's a bit of a surprise. So guys, if you're looking at this, you can see she's got, from the relationship and from her family like the family environment she's in right now, 0 significance, very low level of certainty, just a little bit of love, not even love, like connection, probably a lot, some from friends, but but just from one vehicle basically, and zero variety. There's no question as to why you'd want to leave, why you'd want to go somewhere else. Because at this point, and this is what most people wait for, by the way, before they actually make a change, before they move from Texas to Tennessee or whatever. Most people are waiting for these to get to ones, twos, zeros, etc., to where they're like, that's it, I freaking got to change. What the good news is that you're in a place where the leverage is already there, right? You got tons of leverage right here just based upon this. And so I don't know. I don't even know. Do we really even need to talk about you moving? Because it sounds like you've already kind of decided to do that, but I could be wrong. So you tell me.
No, it's a done deal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And we can see why. So now the only question is, now that you know you're going to move, what do you need to change? Is there something that you've been seeing like I need to change in order to make sure I'm in a better situation in the future so I don't get into that again? Or is there something you need to change once you get there so that you are accomplish something else? Or like what's the most important thing that you want, knowing that we know you're going to move. That's clear. But within that process or outside of that even, like now that you know that's going to happen, now what do you want? That you actually could use some help with?
Well, like I said before, I got myself into this situation, and something that was told to me by my father was, don't marry a man like me. And so at the end of the day, he was saying, well, you just got the upgrade of your first husband. So as I'm saying this, it's going back 3 different men already.
Yes.
This one issue.
And were they very similar?
Oh, yes. After I stopped and looked at it, I had to have someone tell me what, that's what's going on. I had no clue, what type of situation I was in. I just know that it was really, really heinous.
Got it. So this really ultimately is about making a better selection, and we can see why, because maybe at first you're getting level 8 love, but in a very short period of time, at least with this one, and if the other ones are similar, we've got a similar situation. The needs go down pretty darn quickly to 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we can see what kind of change you want to make here. So first, before we get into anything, that's more kind of the deep dive into looking at the mechanics here, like who do you really need to select in the future? Like what's the biggest mistake you made in terms of the guys you picked in the past, and that you need to avoid in the future? And what's the most important thing you need to make sure that you're looking for with a future relationship to make sure that this doesn't happen again the same way it did?
Knowing the difference between love and affection.
Yeah, because you know that with all these guys you got affection, but
and attention.
Say again?
Attention.
Okay. All right. So you got attention. Well, you tell me. When you got the attention, did you decide that was love, or did it just make you feel significant, and so you were more seduced by the significance?
The attention made me feel significant.
Yep.
And then the affection masked itself so that I interpreted it as love when it was just affection.
Yes. So if we were to look back at, let's go back to our little tree here. To look back at this, we can see what needs she's looking to meet, right? She wants to meet love. She wants to feel significant. A guy comes along, gives her affection and massive amounts of attention. The significance goes sky high because she gets the attention, and then her rule was, at the time it was, well, if I get affection, then that means love, basically. So with somebody who has that belief, it's like affection equals love, and if I get attention from this particular guy, then I must be significant, or I feel way more significant. She's meeting 2 of her 4 needs just like that. Any guy has to do at that point in order to manipulate you is just to give you some certainty, at least short term, Now you got 3 of your needs met in that relationship. It's over.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense.
My time is getting better though.
Say again?
I said my timing is getting better though. The last one was 10 years.
Yes. Yeah, so you're seeing the signs a lot faster, which is great. So now the question is, there's actually, forget about that. I think we've diagnosed this pretty clearly. Let's just go ahead and let's talk through what we've already understood. We've got, here, let me see if I can get my...
And I don't know if you realize what I'm saying, but I'm actually going to my father at this point.
Okay. Meaning you're going to move, you're going to be moving to a place where you're going to be close to your father.
Yeah, and he's the original one that gave me this mindset, that I learned this mindset from.
Okay. What's the mindset?
The mindset is, for instance, he told me shortly after my grandmother passed that he was just telling me a story about him and my mother, and he said, you know, I was very controlling to your mother. And I didn't get it at that point. I knew it was something, but I did not get the gravity of it until now.
So the mindset was what that you got from that conversation?
That the original controller is him, and so I have to learn how to deal with that type of behavior if I'm going to truly be me.
Well, here's the thing. I think that you've actually learned to deal with it. I think that's part of the challenge. You dealt with it for 10 years, and you dealt with it for 3 years, and you attracted guys that are like that, right?
Right.
Okay. So here's the real question: is what is not how to deal with that, because you're actually a pro now at dealing with that. And by the way, you needed to be, because that was a situation you're in. So you don't have to get better at dealing with that. What the real question is how can you, or what is it going to take to actually attract something completely different, especially when you've become so good at dealing with this as well, because we've become experts at our problems basically. So here's and by the way, if there's anything else that I should know, I mean, definitely should share it, but I'm just going to give you my kind of level 1 diagnosis here. I might do a little drawing as we do this. So in Kenyatta's life, she's got a vehicle that she's very focused on, which is a man or the men or whatever. And men hold a certain kind of position in terms of being an important vehicle in Kenyatta's life. And then this vehicle, I mean, we know that vehicle's there, right? And so we could kind of place it there. But that is the superficial side. The other thing that we have to diagnose is, okay, what's all this stuff going on in here? And what's going on in here is that she definitely wants to meet all these needs, but she's driven definitely by love, definitely by significance, and to some extent some certainty in there, but not completely by certainty, because these men who have been controlling, it's like you don't get a ton of certainty from that. Like they get certainty, but you don't get too much. So it doesn't sound like the certainty is the big value for you. You know, because you tell me if I'm wrong, Kenyatta, but you've been through a real roller coaster ride with these 3 relationships. It hasn't exactly been very stable. It hasn't exactly been very certain. Is that accurate? And you can tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
No, that's definitely true.
Okay, so certainty is not...
I've become very used to variety and I crave it.
Yeah, okay, oh, there we go. Okay, so she craves variety, so the variety is... So it's definitely not... Certainty is not like the driving force here. Is not the driving force in this interaction. Now we know what she's played for. She's originally in a relationship. She gets played for love and significance. Those are the big ones, and she craves the variety though. So that's part of it too. You know. So here's the thing with these kind of relationships, going up and down and up and down and up and down, kind of the different version of the same guy. I mean, this isn't just one guy. This is a bunch, right? There's a whole line of them. Let me ask you this, Kenyatta. How certain are you that you could find another guy just like the one that you're leaving?
Do I have to answer that?
Yes.
I don't want one.
I know you don't want. I don't care if you want one. I'm just saying if it was like I was going to give you $1 million to find one, and attach yourself to one just for a month, and you can bail. How certain would you be that you could get that?
Say it one more time.
If you really were so stupid as to do it again, how certain are you that you could find a guy similar to that?
Oh, that wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
It'll be as soon as I wanted it.
Yeah, so it's like a 10. So this vehicle of multiple these different guys, she's got a 10 certainty of it. Like she says, as soon as she wants it, right? Initially, she gets a ton of love and a ton of significance because she gets that attention, and then the affection, which equals love, at least equal love in the past. And then she gets a variety because anytime she goes to the next guy, she gets variety because it's a different guy, supposedly, right? So you got 10 certainty. At least initially in the relationship, she'll get high levels of love, high levels of significance, and then of course the variety is huge at that time. She's meeting all her needs at 9s and 10s by doing this same guy, different version over and over and over again for the last 13, probably even more years. That's why you haven't changed. That's the reason why after the marriage, even if it was painful and it was 10 years and I was like, oh my God, that's why you got another one of the same, because you met all your needs. You might have values and wants and different ideas. It's like I should have done something different or whatever, but by the time you get even in the ballpark of starting to meet these needs at this level, it's over. You're in a deep trance. And then it's just predictable what will happen. You'll go in the same triad, you'll go in the same emotions and behaviors, and you'll meet these needs, at least for a short time, just the same way. And again, you always got certainty you can go get another one. It's not very fulfilling. We can see why you wouldn't want to do that for a variety of reasons, right? But we also know that you can meet all these needs at very high levels, at least temporarily, and that's why you keep doing this. So there's no doubt why you haven't changed that up till this point, at least, is that you're meeting all your needs.
Wow.
So now we know I haven't changed. So we've already diagnosed why, and by the way, at this point, if you're still watching this, you might be looking at this and be like, okay, great, well, she's screwed, right? But that's exactly what we need to get right now is why Kenyatta didn't just on her own make a massive change in the men she's around and how she is with family and the game she plays and everything for herself and her family and for a better future. Why she hasn't done that, we need to know. If we don't know, I know you want something better than this. I know you want a better life. I know you want better money. I know you want a better man. I know you want a better relationship with the people that are going to be around you, no matter how imperfect they are. I know you want all those things, but people in hell want ice water. And wanting that isn't going to get it if you meet all your needs by not. And especially if you think, well, gosh, if I change this, maybe I won't meet all these needs at this level. The reason you want to change, Kenyatta, is that there's a lot of pain that comes with this. The reason you want to change is because there's a better life and there's better men, you have beliefs that have allowed you to get to the point where you at least have the desire, right? But the reason you haven't yet changed is you're meeting all the needs, and at some level, it's like, well, what prevents you from changing, let's put it this way, what prevents you from changing is exactly what we just elucidated here. Is that you're meeting all your needs, so why would you change? So now we know the two most important answers, the two questions we got to ask right up front when we have this conversation. What does this person want? She wants to have a better practice. She wants better support from her family. She wants definitely a relationship the biggest thing, all that stuff is good, but the big thing that you really kind of focus me in on in this conversation is I want to make better choices in my relationships. That's what you want. Want to make a better selection for a different guy that's not going to be like this again, because I've had plenty of them. That's done. I've had it with that. That's what you want. What's preventing you from getting it is this. You're meeting all your needs by doing it anyway. That's why you did it over and over and over again, even though you knew better. By the way, even when you knew better, that's one of the reasons why you would ignore that or why you maybe wouldn't notice it. Because when you're too busy meeting all your needs at this level, you're too busy getting 9s and 10s, it's kind of hard to think of anything else because things are going so well. That would be, who wants to spoil the party and be like, I've done this before and he's acting the same way as the last guy, and yeah, I know I can get my needs met, but I know there's pain in the future. You know, like maybe now after 3 you might start to think that, but it's really hard to think that when you're getting massive pleasure that's coming from somebody else that you don't even have to do anything. He's going to take care of you and give you certainty and totally idolize you and totally connect and give you affection. It's like, geez, like what is a girl to do, right? So that's why you haven't. That's what's prevented you from changing up until now. So now we've successfully diagnosed the most important things. What do you want? What's preventing you from getting it? Now we know. Okay. First of all, Kenyatta, before we move on to the next step, does all that sound like it's you know, I don't mean like necessarily every single detail, but overall, does that sound like it's pretty on point?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I just want to double check with you. This is what you want to do with your client, obviously, is, you know, because you could go off the deep end and really be way off base. And we could drill deeper. There's a lot of deeper diagnoses we can have, but that's good enough for us to move to the next piece, I think, especially in this situation, because this is a tough one. The next step, as we all know, is leverage. This is also the biggest reason why she hasn't changed, because she's meeting all those needs. She's not meeting them now. That's why she'll change superficially going from Texas to Tennessee. But she hasn't made the change yet for changing how she's going to select a man. I think you're close to that, but you're not quite there yet. That's why you're asking for it, basically. You're like, I want to make sure I do a better job with this in the future. It's a beautiful thing, by the way. I can't acknowledge you enough for the fact that you're not just being honest about, okay, I made those bad choices, because that's not an easy thing to say. You know, that takes a lot of courage just there. But secondly, also to be serious about something that in the long term is going to make a difference, even though you could get short-term pleasure just by doing the same cycle again. And I know you don't want to do that. So it's a beautiful thing, and it really takes a lot of courage to be in this conversation. I really hope that you take that in, because just having the honesty to say that, having the courage to confront these aspects of you that is responsible for the selection that you made, you can change it. It really is possible to change it now. So let's move on to the second step, the leverage step. Now, you tell me, Kenyatta, just off the top of your head, what is the biggest reason why you can never do that again? Why you can never make a bad selection like we were just talking about again? What's the most important thing now that maybe it wasn't there before, but now it's like if you make this choice again, it's going to be either even worse or it's going to be even more painful for you?
It costs me and my children entirely too much.
And so what's the biggest cost? I agree with you. I'm just wondering in detail, like what specifically?
My mental and emotional well-being.
Yep. Let me ask you this, Kenyatta. And because I mean, the beautiful thing about the situation is you're in the pain right now. What is the biggest thing that takes away your mental, emotional well-being? What's the biggest pain for you right now?
Just feeling insignificant, feeling just not valued.
Yes, that's exactly right. And also, by the way, that's also the reason why this is very challenging to change. Because the pain for you that gets you to leave is losing, whoops, sorry. I keep thinking I'm writing. The pain for you that is making you want to leave is the feeling of insignificance. And which will get you to leave. That's leverage for you. That's very serious leverage. But the pleasure for you to get with the next version of the same guy is also the feeling of feeling significant to him at that time. That's what this is all about. You're hooked by that significance thing. You probably know this, tell me if you don't, but as a woman, you can go with a man, make him feel important, kind of prop him up, prop his ego up. 5 minutes, he'll do anything you ask. You can easily manipulate a man by just giving him significance, because not every man, but most men, they're driven to feel good about themselves. They want to be significant. They want to feel strong. It's like man's disease, right? They got to go out there, kick ass, be better than everybody else. They're competitive, confrontive. The thing about what's happened with a lot of women in this country is that although many of them are still very connection driven and and very loving people, which is a natural part of your physiology as a woman. You're wired to connect. You have more connection biochemistry, 10 times the biochemistry for connection in you right now than any man does.
I have to plug in my computer, so give me 2 minutes.
Okay. You have to find an outlet. Oh, I'm going to take that she's finding the outlet right now. So I'll explain this as Kenyatta finds the outlet here. That women in our society now have men's disease, and this happened historically. The last 50 years, divorce became in vogue, whereas before people would have affairs, but they'd stay together. So the wife was always taken care of, even if she wasn't the only woman. And so what happened is that when divorce started to happen on a mass scale, men left relationships, found different wives or younger wives or whatever, and stopped taking care of their current wife. And in that generation, all that generation told our kids, Kenyatta, your age, my age, etc., don't ever rely on a man. You need to take care of yourself. And so you should feel good about doing that. And yeah, I think that's actually fairly good advice to some extent. But the challenge is that some of what that pushes in all of us, if we were to do that, and especially women, is that even though that you're a connection creature, you start getting men's disease, and it's all about significance. It's all about feeling good about yourself, feeling special, proud, powerful, better than. And if you see women these days, there's no connection to the freedom of the feminine and the beauty and the love and the connection that provides and the flow of that. It's all controlled, significant, using, let's see a 15-year-old girl using sex to get attention, or using something else to confront somebody. You see in a video on YouTube, and their girls get together to beat each other up now. It's like what a bunch of guys would do, right? But women are doing this now. And so basically, and again, women and men, obviously there's equality here, as any woman could do anything a man could do, and a lot of times do it better. So it's not about like you can't be significant or something. It's just that as a woman, your body's wired for connection. You want to be happy, you want to be fulfilled. And if significance is the reason that you leave, and it's the driver, significance is also going to be just like a guy. Guys are that stupid. You can manipulate him in 5 seconds just by telling him he's so cool, or he's so smart, or he's so rich, or whatever, and just treat him like he's so great and have him talk about himself. All of a sudden his chest pops out. He's like, yeah, I'm awesome, and you're in control, right? So this is really what this is about in terms of the leverage, is that the significance that, Kenyatta, you're back, are you not? I just want to make sure. Kenyatta, are you hearing me okay right now? I think I can see you. I just don't know if I. Oh, you know what? I might have you on mute now. Kenyatta, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. You're coming in a little different, but I think you're okay at this point. So the point I was making is what you just said was really key, because what's making you want to leave, the leverage that makes you want to leave, is the significance. But that's the exact same trick that a guy will play on you in order to kind of seduce you into a relationship that's not going to work for you long term, which is the significance as well. So yes, that leverage will get you to leave, but it's not that leverage. Just getting significance for yourself is not going to get you to make a better choice. Let's put it that way. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. And Kenyatta, you're coming in super soft. I'm not sure if there's a way that you can get closer to your mic or turn up or something.
Yeah, I'm actually moving from my phone back to my computer because my computer shut down. But yeah, is that better?
No, it's about the same.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. All right. Actually, that's better. I think if maybe you should just lean in, you should be okay. So the real question is it's not just the leverage to leave, it's the leverage to make a better choice. And so you tell me again, Kenyatta, because I think you have the answer to this one, or at least a really important answer, and I don't think you've mentioned it yet. But what's the biggest reason why you can't make this mistake again now? It's not just because you feel insignificant right now. That's short term. That'll go away. You could find another guy like this and get significance, at least in the short term. What's even more? You tell me this. Here's a different way of asking it. What's more important to you than just your own sense of significance? That would be even more painful if you didn't take care of it, didn't preserve it, and didn't focus on it and make sure that it was okay. That you actually sacrifice when you play the significance game.
My very life and health and that of my children's lives.
Okay, say that a little bit louder. I think I heard it, but it just came in super soft.
Life, health, and the life and health of my children.
Yeah, because you can't really be very healthy, at least mentally, if not physically, if you keep going through these issues. And by the way, that health and that life, that's certainty. So, in order to play the significance game, you could be the significance-driven bitch and just be like, oh, just give me attention and da-da-da-da-da, and go over and over and over and over again. But eventually, your life is so in such upheaval, and your life is going up and down so much for yourself and your child all of a sudden that you got no certainty. So to be seduced over and over again by the significance will ultimately have you lose certainty in your life, and you've already proven that to be the case. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Not to mention, you're not just trying to get, because I know you're a variety nut. I get it. You love the variety, and that's cool, right? But the problem is now even more than ever that you might be able to deal with some uncertainty, and I'm okay if you do that. But to fuck over your child just to get some significance and some variety, to make their life uncertain, to take away their prospects for having some stability so they can grow their dream, I definitely got a problem with that. Even if you're not going to be fulfilled. I'm betting though that you also have a problem with that. Does that would that be fair to say?
Definitely.
So even if you're like, I can handle this man, and I'm just going to have another one and get more variety and significance, it wouldn't be loving to your what's your daughter's name?
Well, I actually have 3 children, but my daughter's name is Ashley.
Okay. For Ashley, and then you have 3 children. So we'll just talk Ashley just for simplicity's sake. It wouldn't be loving to Ashley to put her through that. The instability of that. Not just the instability of that, but also you can't really love her at the level that what really is available to you, and she can't feel the love from not just a father figure, but people around her if you're so busy. Whoa, well that's loud. Something's working in terms of volume here. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that's our 47 minutes. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, so we're on borrowed time now. That was 47 minutes right there. But I think we're getting the point here, which is that Ashley is not going to feel the depth of love that she could feel from a family if you're buzzing the next tower every 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 10 years, whatever. Not just that it's going to be uncertain for her, but it's not going to be a very loving environment. In fact, if you're constantly focused on the significance for yourself, judging whether you're significant or not, judging whether you're good enough, basically trying to get it from a guy or trying to get it from even something else, just leaving the guy, then you're going to be focused on yourself. You can't love her fully when you're totally focused on yourself. So you're not just screwing her out of some stability and certainty, you're screwing her out of the full love that you could give, not to mention the love of a family that would not be about playing the game of significance. So she definitely misses out. And by the way, the perfect way to make her go through the same problems that you've gone through for the last 10, 20 years is to continue the cycle that you've already begun. Is to do it again and again and again. Because she'll do one or two things. She'll either model you, she'll decide that because you're not significant enough to get the significance within yourself, and you can't create your own stability, or you can't choose a guy who just loves you, even if it's not all about significance, then she might as well do the same thing because she's modeling you. She sees how you get your needs met by doing that. And you screw her into the same kind of relationship. Or she'll rebel. She'll look at you and say, well, gosh, she's a warning of what not to do. I'm never going to do that. She might even have better relationships because of that. But she won't connect with you then. And you won't feel her love because she'll run away from you. And she also will miss out on having her mother and everything that could provide her. So you rob her of you, and you rob yourself of the connection that you already have with her and the connection that you can have in the future with her as well. Whether or not you're significant, because you're significant to her. But you won't be if she decides that you're a warning. And you're a warning of what not to do. And you won't be, I bet you tell me if I'm wrong, but you won't be if you become her role model and teach her how to do what you did, because then you'll probably hate yourself for that. Because you don't want to cause that kind of pain and suffering in her life, which is basically what you went through over the last 15 years. Would you agree or disagree with what I said, or is there any part of that that resonates, or something that sounds off base? You tell me.
No, it's definitely an agreement. I just, was thinking that I'm not being, which is basically what you said, I'm not being the example that I thought I was trying to be in giving her the security and all those things that I wanted so much for myself. I'm not doing that for them because my perception of it is so skewed.
Yeah, and here's what's skewing it. I'll tell you again. We already talked about it, but I think it's important to re-acknowledge that. See if I can make this thing work again. The thing that skews it is the significance. That's what hooks you. It's when you're pursuing anything that's about significance for you, whether it be a business, even a coaching business could be all about significance, whether it be money or the chance to compare, or being more attractive than the next girl, or getting some significant man's attention. Any of those games is the significance game. And it's, number one, we've already shown how it has you make choices that are going to screw you guys over. But number two, it also, in the moment that you're all about significance, is the moment that you're going to fight with anybody around you, or you're going to just make it about you. Because whenever you're really about significance, you can't stop comparing yourself with other people, other places, other opportunities, or other things, other possibilities. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, if you do that, you certainly can't focus on connecting with the people that you love at that time. So if you're going to stay a significance bitch and be all about having connection for yourself in the short term, and get variety for yourself in the short term, and then blame your father, who's, I agree, probably not the greatest role model, but blame that, and so you don't have to feel bad about yourself for doing this to your daughter, it's like, I can't collaborate with you on that one. For that to continue, like, we couldn't continue the conversation, because I can't support that. But I also believe that you're not going to support that either, which is why we're having the conversation, which is why you said that's skewing me. That's skewing my choices. So again, we're really just focusing on the leverage right now. Out of what I said, what is the most painful thing? What is the worst thing that would have you, if it happened, if it continued, or if it happened long term, like 10, 20 years down the road, that would be the worst pain, much worse than just not feeling like super significant in the moment?
I'm no longer able to take care of and provide for my children.
Yeah. Which is why you're leaving now, and why I know that you're committed to never making this mistake again. Which is really great. That was the leverage that you already had when you were here, that we just didn't talk about at first. Now the cool thing is that if you're committed to that and you lay that foundation of certainty, you can probably have some stability to not just create love in a great relationship that's not about significance, but also create the stability so you can launch into even more significant endeavors. The coaching business, or whatever else you want to do, and then also have Ashley launch into some significant endeavors for herself. So you can feel even better about herself. So that's the ultimate leverage. And by the way, for any mother, generally speaking, that's kind of one of the nice things in this conversation is we know that if you know this is going to impact Ashley and your children, that you will just not let that happen. And then it's just a question of how do you need to look at things differently. If you look at things through a different filter, you're going to find a different relationship. There's no doubt about that. But I think you've got enough leverage for yourself right now to know that you don't want to look at this through the significance filter anymore. Not to mention, it would be insignificant. I mean, if you went 10 years and kept doing this, and you didn't provide for Ashley and your children, and you kept doing the same thing, making the same mistake over and over again, and you didn't have any stability, so you couldn't start your business, you couldn't get that going, and you also, because that kept going, weren't able to kind of create enough stability for your own kind of just financial stability, how significant are you going to feel at that point?
Very insignificant.
Yeah. So the very going after significance in the way that you had done it in the past, that you identified, and you were very intelligent to identify in that way, will actually take it away. It's actually the ultimate insignificance, ultimately long term. Not to mention, there's not a lot of certainty in that kind of life, as you know. There's moments of certainty, but they're just moments where you go back and forth between certainty and variety. And then there's not a lot of connection for you long term because you're not getting it from yourself. And if you can't give yourself the connection, you're definitely not going to be able to get it from a man, because you're gonna be manipulatable by the guy who can give it and take it away and give it and take it away, because then he can push that button again, like he did with the significance initially. He did it with love too. You were willing to settle for it really wasn't love that you got connection from him because it was the affection basically, but you didn't get love. And you just got short-term significance. So it's not very certain. You're not going to feel very significant. And I know you already kind of don't, because we talked about that, but I'm talking long-term as well. And then also, it just wouldn't be loving to your daughter, wouldn't be loving to yourself to continue to do this. So I think you got enough leverage to make this change. I think you kind of already did. I think we just kind of pounded it in a little bit deeper. So now it's the question of the empowering alternative. And so I know that you want to provide the stability, and I think you can do that, and I think you will do that, even if there isn't another man around. Like, you'll figure out how to do that. You tell me if I'm wrong, but is that fair to say, just overall, like, you can do that if you really just need to on your own?
Almost definitely. I've done it before.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not the issue here, guys. If you heard, I hope you heard that, because it's just, what's important to get about that is that this is not really about the certainty. She can handle certainty. She's not certain in her life right now. She's not certain in her life right now, but she can get certainty. She knows she can. She's certain she can get that. And she can provide that for her family too. By the way, just knowing that, how significant do you feel? Just knowing that, you know, even in this situation, even where it's not really that good right now, that you can provide the certainty for them in the long term if you're really committed to do it.
I feel very comfortable with it.
Nice. Really good. So we know this is not a certainty issue, right? You know, it's not about certainty. So, however, like I said, this is about significance. And the empowering alternative has got to be something other than this way of, you know, at least if we're talking about choosing a relationship for the purpose of significance. So you tell me, and we're going to go back to the triad now, because I think that's kind of obvious. It's like, if you choose for significance, you're always going to get the same guy. And like you said, they're a dime a dozen. So it's not exactly very significant to find a guy who provides that in that kind of short-term way, because you know they're a dime a dozen. And you know that you become a dime a dozen by being a part of that too. Just become another woman that he's going to grift for a while, and then he'll move on, he doesn't care, and finds another one, basically. It's not exactly the most significant thing, the most significant way to live. All right, so doing that over and over again, we know that's not empowering. The question is, what is your alternative to getting significance in the short term from a guy who pays attention to you? And even before we get to that, forget about that question for a second, Kenyatta. What did you believe in the past that made you kind of manipulatable by that significance game? Like, what was the connection that you made, or what was the belief that that you were. I know it's like it wouldn't be like a very good belief to have. It's like not. It probably isn't even logical. But it's like you kind of reacted in that way. What was the belief that had you kind of like hooked by significance, especially when it came to choosing relationships?
Well, the thing is, I consider myself to be a lover.
Yes.
So I look for people to love. It's based off of my need. So if that need isn't fulfilled, then that's when the significance issue comes in.
Yes.
Feeling like I have to have people to help or rescue or share my love and my life with. I believe I'm over that.
So you tell me, if you don't find that person that you can help and rescue and share your life with, then what would that mean?
That's what it was.
Well, that's what I mean. We're talking about the past. I know it's changing or changed, but what would that mean if you, for the past Kenyatta, what is it that she made that mean? If she failed to do
said what was it that
what if you didn't find that person to rescue or care for or share your life with, then that meant what? In the past, what did that mean? That would be so painful, that would make it so that you could be manipulated in that way.
That meant that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't doing the right things.
You got it. Kenyatta, you nailed it right there. That's why I kept focusing on the significance, because for you, finding somebody that needs you and that you can give love, because you're all about love. You're not, like I said, I was doing it a little bit provocative, saying significance bitch. You're not that significance bitch. But and again, you're really all about love. But the thing is that for you, love, it's like if I don't get that person that I can give my love to, then I'm insignificant. So it's almost like because I mean, you're a lover, like you said, you actually feel love. Even if you're not with a man, you feel love at some level, do you not?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So really, this is about the belief that if you don't need me, if somebody doesn't need me, I'm insignificant. I'm worthless. That's the belief. That was the belief in the past, at least. So what would be a belief that would empower you to feel significant, even if you're on your own and you're not like caring for some man?
My children.
Yes. And what's that belief about your children that will allow you to feel significant?
Because I know they need me, and they need my guidance, they need my direction.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, we can hear that right now.
Yes.
It's really good.
He needs some juice, so I'm still listening. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, so that's the bottom line. The empowering alternative is actually very simple here. It's just a belief. If Kenyatta just changes that one belief, instead of like the man, this is the universal sign for a guy tonight. The man equals significance. And for her, it's because she provides the love in that relationship, right? So if I can give love to this man, then I'm important. If not, I'm worthless. Right? That was the old belief. The new belief is, my child. I don't know if I can draw a little child. My child. This is a smaller child. My child needs me, and so I'm significant. I'm significant because my child needs me. Now, by the way, that's not going to be forever, but it's definitely more empowering than I got to get this man who I can take care of. Like you said, yeah, Melinda said she was a fixer. It's like, well, of course she's a freaking fixer. Look, if you don't have to fix somebody, you're not very significant, right? It's like if you just have a man that doesn't really need you. See that because it's like it wasn't love just loving people equally. It's like find a person that I can save, I can fix, etc., so I can be significant. Because if you don't need to fix them, then you're not very significant probably. That was that whole significance game that she was playing. I get that you're not playing that anymore, but again, that belief was driving that piece. Absolutely. And you don't need to fix your kids. Your kids are perfect whether or not you're there, but they do need you, and we know that. Now, here's the thing: eventually, kids are gonna grow up, and they're gonna leave home, and there's gonna be times when they're not loving you or needing you or any of that kind of stuff, and there's gonna be maybe another level of belief, which is gonna be like, you know what? I'm significant because I was born, or I'm significant because I know that I do what it takes to at least take care of myself, or I'm significant because because my Creator loves me, or I'm significant because there were 5 million different combinations of people that could have shown up for my mom and dad, and I'm the one that showed up, right? Or I'm significant because I know I have integrity, and I'm a loving person, whoever's around me, no matter whether or not I'm taking care of somebody else right now. If I just feel love for them, I'm significant. There's so many different rules that you could have for significance that could give you that significant back. And also, again, what's more important here to you is love anyway. You were just playing the significance game for a short time because you could, and because love was always kind of uncertain and temporary. So I'd say it's like, and this is just something I'd offer you for the future. What did you just get?
But all this time, I've been focusing on outside influences rather than focusing on me.
That's right. And that's why it was about significance rather than love, because you really are a lover. You really are about love, but you've given the love to other people, and in order to get the significance and the love, and really what you got back was a lot of significance, not so much the love. And the love was always uncertain because you gave it away rather than give it to yourself. The moment that, and the thing is that you actually always gave the love to yourself, even when he gave it to you. When he acted a certain way, you gave yourself some love. When your child acts a certain way, you gave yourself some love. You could just give yourself some love anyway, basically. But the bottom line is, if you do that internally, rather than have that external frame of reference for this has to happen outside of me for me to be significant or be loved, then you can always be certain that you'll get love. That was really what this was about. This was really about love for you, not about significance. The significance was just a Band-Aid for not being able to deal with the uncertainty of love from these guys, because it was such a roller coaster. So it's like, how the heck can I get love and be stable and take care of my kids and feel good about myself at the same time and not be hurt again? Does that resonate at all?
Most definitely.
Yeah. And the good news is, like I said, you can, but not if you play that significance game. You only can when you know that you're the source of love for yourself, not anybody else. And only once you love yourself fully, and you know this from like coaching, right? You know this from personal development. It's like, it's only when we love ourselves fully that anyone else can really love us anyway. And you've actually made the point. It's like, if you didn't love yourself fully internally, and I know you love yourself, that's why you've done all these things. But it's just like, you didn't let yourself have the love at certain times. You only gave it when you met those rules, those old beliefs that we talked about. So it's like, you got yourself love some of the time, but not all the time. If you loved yourself all the time, then you'd have other love from outside yourself, but you wouldn't need it. And you'd feel significant too, because you know that you're the source of it. That's a place where you definitely shouldn't depend on a man. Or anybody for that matter. And the good news is you don't have to, because you can love yourself. And there have been times in your life when nobody else loved you and you did love yourself. Is that accurate? Is that fair to say? If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I can say that I'm learning that to be the truth, but I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. And the reason was because you were so focused externally. Because when we're focused externally, we buy into the mistake that the love came from outside of us rather than always coming from within. So right now, and this is more of the conditioning piece, right now, you can give yourself love on a 0 to 10, like, just right now, just give yourself some love. And just take a second to do it. I'm just going to give you a couple seconds to give yourself a chance to give yourself some love. And then once you've done that, at any level, just tell me on a 0 to 10 how much love you felt within yourself just by you giving it to yourself. I'm just curious. And take your time.
I would say an 8.
Yeah. Really nice. And by the way, I didn't even give you any coaching on that. I mean, there's all sorts of cool things we could do to love ourselves in the moment. Give yourself a hug. You can smile. You can breathe love in. You can think about loving times in your life. You can visualize. You can do affirmations. I didn't even give you any coaching on that kind of stuff. You already had an 8. So you just proven you're the key to the love. You know. And by the way, while you were giving yourself that love, how significant did you feel?
I felt very significant and empowered.
Nice. So you got your power, and that, by the way, that was what got us into this conversation. I need to get that power. You get now you know you always had the power. Now it was just a question of using it, and now that you just proved you can use it to give yourself the love. I mean, you did it through love, which is really the core of who you are. You're all about love. But also, while you love yourself, you also get the significance too. It's just you didn't, and by the way, you didn't even have to focus on the significance to get it. It just came along because you gave yourself the love. Now, here's the other thing, and this is like the really deep conditioning piece. I want to give you this last piece because I think this is going to be the test for you. And so one of the nice things about the test is in life is that we can kind of pass them before they come up. We can rehearse them and kind of cheat and do it before it comes. So as you continue to give yourself even more love in whatever ways, just by hugging yourself or smiling or breathing that love in, or just thinking about times that you've had love, or just doing whatever you did when you had an 8 and moving it to a 9 and a 10, doubling that love, whatever you need to do in your body, with your breathing, with the look on your face, with what you say to yourself, with what you focus on, just right now as you increase that love, and it unconsciously and effortlessly continues to increase inside you, as it unconsciously and effortlessly grows inside you, as it kind of flows from your heart or wherever it is, all the way down to your toes, all the way out to your tips of your fingers, all the way up and fills your entire body till it's just you're exploding with love. As you continue to feel that, I want you to imagine just for a second, you've met a guy, and clearly he's giving you love, right? Like, I mean, whatever that means to you. You've met a guy and like, hey, it's great, right? It's a great relationship. You're happy, you're excited. You're kind of in that honeymoon period. And just see, as you continue to give yourself that love, see that in your mind's eye. And just say yes when you kind of have a visualization of that.
How clear is the visualization supposed to be?
It doesn't have to be perfect. Just, get an idea, like you can imagine yourself in that moment.
I don't even think I want to at this point.
Why not?
I want to focus on fixing what I've broken.
I got it. Here's the thing, Kenyatta. That's why you need to, because there's going to be a point where that need to fix that is going to wear off. And the variety part of you is going to, I mean, you haven't sworn off men forever, I'm assuming. Is that right? I mean, tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So the thing is, being somebody who didn't love herself and waited for someone else to give it, or really did love herself, it was just, was trying to get it from external. And, having the love come from outside and doing that thing that you did with men was always going to be broken, coming from that strategy. But being someone who loves herself and knows she's significant and stable and certain for herself and her children, there's a little bit different action available in relationships as well. And I'm not saying do it tomorrow. I agree with you on that. You probably need some time, right? But what I am saying is, maybe a year from now, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 6 months from now. I don't know when it'll happen. At some point, you're going to attract another guy. You're going to attract a man, or you're going to find a man. And you guys are going to go out on a date, and then you're going to go out on 2, and then you're going to go out on 5, and it's going to go well. And it's not that it hasn't gone well in the past. It's just that you can attract a guy, and he's going to like you, And good things are going to happen, at least in the short term with that. And that's all I mean, is like, you can agree that will happen at some point in your future.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, just making sure we're on the same page with that. So the reason I want you to visualize that is because I know it's challenging. Because the first, you giving yourself love, you did that so quickly, and it was beautiful. A lot of people can't even do that, especially in the situation that you're in. So what I'm looking for you to do is to take on loving yourself and actually being in that situation where you have to make some tough decisions, even when it's really going well. Did you get that part, or did you miss it?
I missed it because I was receiving some negative affirmation.
All right, I got it. All right, so I'll say it again. The reason I'm going to have you visualize this is because there's going to be a time in the future when you're giving yourself love, but also it's a really good situation that could kind of hook you as it had in the past. And all of a sudden, you'll start to change from getting internal love to looking at it like it's coming from the outside. So that's why I'm asking you to go ahead and go back into that space where you're giving yourself love, and then visualize having a great time with a man, and then just put yourself in that position just for a second, and I'll give you an exercise to do so that you can make sure that you never make the same mistakes you did in the past again.
So let me just give you an example. So as I'm sitting here, go ahead. So as I'm sitting here, they come in the room, and I say I'm in the middle of a meeting. Then I say I'm being counseled, I'm being coached. Just go ahead so I can, finish what I'm doing. Your response is there's something wrong with you. So it's like what you're asking me to do at this particular point in time is like, what?
Okay, so that's even better, actually. That's even better, though. So
what do I want to do that for? Oh, you know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah, because they're giving you the pain of what you're connecting with having made the choice that you made. I got it. I'm with you. By the way, that's an even better. That's exactly why you need to do this, though. Because you can have everything that you want inside without a guy, but you can also achieve not just contributing to him, not the old him, but the best choice for your soulmate, and also be the woman that you need to be for yourself and your children as well. That was the lack of the belief in the past. So the very pain that they're trying to offer you, you don't have to accept if you continue to love yourself, number one. But also if you continue to love yourself, you can make a better choice in the future whenever you meet a great guy. And so that's what I'm asking you to do is go ahead and give yourself that gift on top, beyond where you are right now. Can you do that? I mean, I'm assuming you're in a position where like you can actually do that without being interrupted in the next minute or two. Is that something that's possible?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this will just take a minute. So just take a second, put yourself in that state where you were before, where you were the lover. You loved yourself, and no, you didn't need it from anybody else. And just say yes when you're there. That's right.
Okay, yes.
Beautiful. Now, as you continue to feel more and more of that, as you hear the sound of my voice, just go ahead and close your eyes and just for a second visualize that you're on a date or you're with a new guy. And just say yes when you actually you get an idea of that at least.
Yes.
Okay. So as you do that, continue to give yourself love, even as you're you might be questioning him. You might be questioning whether it's the right guy. But even as that happens, and no matter what he does, continue to give yourself love at least an 8. And as you continue to do both at the same time, be around him and feel love, just say yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now, I want you to imagine that he does something that shows you that, he probably is not the guy that you're looking for. In other words, he's doing the same controlling stuff that you've seen in the past, or the kind of stuff. It's like when you see those signs. And as you see him do that, I want you to give yourself love. And then as you give yourself that love, I want you to make a decision in that moment on what you're going to do next, having to do with that guy. Whether it to be to leave or to let him know that you don't stand for that, or to give him another chance or whatever. Doesn't matter what the decision is.
Oh no, it's just it's a flat out no and good night.
Woo! Okay. All right, beautiful. And now I want you to see a different guy. As you continue to give yourself love, I want you to see a different guy. And I want you to see this guy that, you met him, he's great. And then as you guys continue on in your relationship, he's different from these other guys in that he's not doing that other stuff. In fact, maybe he even wasn't even like attractive in the same way that these other guys were. Because a lot of times the guys that aren't controlling and aren't significant jerks and stuff like that, a lot of times they're not the ones that will pursue you in the same way, or maybe you'll meet them in different ways and you might not even notice them until now. But I want you to notice that guy. It's maybe even a guy that you hadn't noticed in the past, but it's a type of guy that is really probably a much better fit for you, even if it's not as exciting in the short term. And as you go through the relationship with that guy, I want you to continue to give yourself love. And instead of being the source of love for him, because although you love him, he doesn't necessarily always need it, because he loves himself, which a lot of these guys in the past didn't.
Wow, that's a very huge point right there. That is so true.
Notice that you can continue to love yourself. You don't need the significance to fix him. And you can bring a lot of variety to the table with that guy. Because you understand how to create excitement. And maybe, I'm not saying he's not exciting, but you bring that out in him in a way that nobody else does. And that's one of the ways that you can feel significant. One of the ways that you can feel significant with him and continue to not have to be like the only source of love to save him or anything like that. And as you continue to give yourself love, just see that happen in the relationship. Just the way you want it to happen. And just the way that you see that would happen if you were to treat him that way and he was the guy that you can pick and can choose if you're really being smart about it. And you're really loving yourself. Just take all the time you need to experience that and get all the lessons that can provide and get all the fulfillment that can provide for you. And once you've got that and once you get it, and then, like I said, take your time, but as soon as you got that, just say yes.
It's like I don't have a headache anymore, yes.
Really good. Now, one more thing about that. One more thing about this. This is kind of going back to the leverage as we've been talking about more of the conditioning piece. Imagine how Ashley's going to feel as she grows up with that man around her in her life. And other men like that around her in her life that she naturally attracts because she knows how to do it because she learns it from you. And imagine the love that she gives herself. And imagine the love that other men want to give her, but she's okay no matter what happens with it. She feels significant and loved, and she knows variety, and she already came from certainty because you and him and anybody else around you that was able to play this new game were able to provide it for themselves and you and her. And imagine how grateful you feel to have been able to give her that gift, and imagine how grateful she is to you for being the person that had to make this tough change internally and externally in order to provide her that gift. I just want you to see that in your mind's eye. And just say yes when you notice how she will look at you and how she will appreciate you and how much love she will have for you and herself when that plays out in the long term.
Yes.
Beautiful. And then give yourself the gift of that because that's who you are for her. And by the way, that's what you're capable of doing totally, as long as you believe it. And in fact, you even proved it by just going through this exercise and going through the future of your life and the decision because you know you can find that guy, but you don't need to. But the fact that you don't need to actually makes it so you'll attract him probably even faster, and you'll make a strong decision if it's not the guy because you never know. So it's really beautiful, and I appreciate you taking the time and energy to go through this, and we definitely went over 47 minutes, so I think I failed in my time frame on this one. The last thing...
I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Absolutely. The last thing I'll leave you with is this. This is one thing we've really been talking about this the whole time, and that is peer group. This has all been about peer group. but it's been about the internal stuff that you needed to create in order to generate the peer group that'll empower you, and that you can empower then also, rather than just doing the stuff that happened in the past. By the way, you and I have talked about this a couple times in the past. You've talked to me about, guys, we've worked together about, it's like, I know I can do this. I know I can do the business. I know I can do this. I know I have the power to do it. It's just really hard to convince the people around me that they can do it for themselves. And it's hard for me to convince the people around me that they can support and share with me what I'm doing for myself. The reason that was because of everything we talked about tonight. And the cool thing is now that you've transformed this isn't just for Ashley. This is not just for you loving yourself, and this is not just for a relationship. This is the basis for all the peer group that you really could attract, and you will attract, and you already began to attract with us and with me and with anybody else around you that cares for you like this and cares for themselves like this and doesn't need fixing, to create the ultimate fruit of the peer group in your measurable results. That peer group will give you access to things that maybe you can imagine it at this point, but it's really hard to think that it's even going to happen. That peer group will give you access to all the business results, the financial results, the freedom results that you and I have been talking about in the past when we talked about coaching businesses. So this isn't just about the relationship, although that'll give you stability and a basis for it, and love and variety and all that cool stuff. That's the juice of life in a lot of ways, but it's also going to give you access to a lot of the things that you've been working towards and you prepared yourself for, but now that you've made this final shift, can come to you in a flood. And it might take, it's going to take maybe more than a day, but if you continue this new game, that's about love, not significance, and the new belief that's about, I know I'm the source of all the love for myself, and I know that I am responsible for that for my children, and they need me. And if a man needs me, then I know I don't have a man, I probably got a boy. And it's time to move on and attract that man that I know is maybe going to act different from that boy, but I can bring the fun, I can bring being a little girl to him and have him feel young again, even if he's totally mature. So that's the juice of it, but that'll also give you access to all these other cool things that you and I have talked about in the past, as far as your success and your finances and your business, and what you can provide for other people around that as well. Does that make sense? I mean, I know we didn't address that specifically, but the whole conversation has been about kind of peer group and how to deal with that. I know you know how to deal with it. It was just a matter of how to deal with the internal stuff to make sure you can make the hard decision, because it's not so hard when you give yourself the love. So makes sense? Any part of that you want some more clarification on?
It makes a lot of sense. It's like I had all the pieces of the puzzle on the table, but I couldn't put not one of them together. And exactly. I knew, as far as getting back to a place of unconditional love with my family, that's what it was, but I didn't think of it in terms of a peer group. I know about, the importance of having super friends. But when you put it in the terms of a peer group, it's like, okay, because I've never thought of myself as having peers.
Yes. And the thing is,
I've always been the one to help others, but,
Okay, makes sense. So here's the thing. Your peers are the people that are closest to you. It's just a question of who they're going to be. Because for a lot of us, family is our closest peer. Some of your closest peers are your children, because they're the people who need love from you and who share love with you, etc. So you've got all these, let's put it this way, and this is kind of, we're getting outside of this modality or this discipline, but really your closest peers is where all of that starts. They're going to be your super friends, so to speak. And again, you can't choose your father, right? Or you can't pick who's your father going to be. You can love him, and then you can decide who's going to be in your peer group, right? On top of that or besides that. But the neat thing is that no matter who you're around, you can have a powerful relationship as long as you love yourself. And that becomes the basis for all of the power that you create within those peer relationships. But where it starts, because you're much more about love than you are about significance, for you it's got to start with the connection thing. If you don't get that part handled and mastered, you'll never go after you'll never get the significance, because even if you act like you're going after it, it won't be authentic, it won't be real. You got to have the basis of the love first. That was a really
Exactly.
important distinction here, because at first, this is when we start talking about diagnosis and leverage. It's like, oh, you're all about significance. No, you're not. You've acted like it. And I know you want the significance, but you needed the love more. And because you didn't give it to yourself, the significance was a game you could play safely. Love is something that can now be safe because you give it to yourself, and then eventually significance becomes possible, but not without first fulfilling the love.
And that was the thing. I'll make a correction because I've always been about love, but with this relationship, I felt like it's not about love, and that's what we're
Yep.
being told to me consistently. It's about significance, making that
Yes.
money, blah, 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 blah.
That's
So I thought that I was needing to transition
Mhm.
from my core, which is love and connection, to significance.
Yeah. That, by the way, that's something that you can really be grateful for about this relationship, because we always attract our reciprocal. We always attract like whatever we put out there. And this relationship, like you said, was about significance, which is that's not the real you, but because you were waving the banner of significance, he was like a heat-seeking missile. There's a significance. I'm going to go after that. So you had one person that was acting like significance, but they were really about love. Another person that really was significance-driven, it sounds like. And so what's great about him as a lesson is he's taught you, it's like this is what having a significance-based relationship is like, especially if that's not who you really are.
I just figured it out.
Go ahead. What did you get?
I just figured it out. Okay. The signals that I must be sending out, because I know my love is powerful, and it's not me being big-headed, but it's just, I know it's potent.
Yeah, okay.
It's in a potent form. And anyone that I attach myself to, that's what they get. They get a very potent form of love, attention, affection, extra love and care, all of that, nurturing, right, the whole nine. And so in a man's view, just like you said, that translates to significance. So I'm sending out these signals saying, I will do this for you and give this to you, which will thus make you feel significant.
Yes. Yeah, because it's not just love. It's not just love for the sake of love. It's the best love. It's the most significant love. And so for a man who's driven by significance, he's like, I don't want just love. I don't care about love. He wants significance. And so he has to get love that in comparison with other love is somehow more significant, somehow better.
So no matter what I give, even though it's in the form of love, they translate it into significance.
If you put the potent love that you were talking about out there on display, you are going to attract probably more often the significance-driven guy. Now, by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean that all guys that are driven by significance are controlling. It doesn't always mean that all guys that are driven by significance are going to be bastards, But it just means that significance drive, if you wave the banner of I have the best love, and that's the way you attract the guy, that you're going to get the guys who are like, well, I can capture that and control that, and like you said, I mean, it can be nice for a while, but long term, that's something that doesn't have a lot of sustainability for you. So it's really, I think you nailed a really important point that we really didn't discuss. It's you laid out the potent side of the love, the significant side of the love, rather than just the pure loving side of the love. And laying that out there is going to attract a different guy, usually. And also, it's not the real you. I'm not saying your love's not really that potent. It's just the intensity of love that you have, and the potent, whatever, however you want to describe that, that is... I'm not saying it's superficial, Kenyatta. I guess what I'm saying is that is only a surface description.
The reasoning behind it is, when I'm looking at what I'm doing, the reasoning behind it is because I've been told that before. I've been told that because one of my love languages is acts of service.
Okay.
And so I was told by one of my mothers, she said, just because you're doing something doesn't mean that you're loving. And it burned me to my core. And I was like, wait, if I'm loving, I'm doing something for you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't tell her this.
Right.
But, it just really, really drives in. It is superficial
Yeah. Okay. Fair
because
enough.
I'm doing it expecting something in return.
Yep. And then it becomes a trade, and it becomes much more about significance than it really is about love. Even though it is for you about love, if you, I think the point's been made. It's like if you lay that part, that active, potent part of love out there, you could attract all sorts of stuff. Whereas if you are actually just looking for real love, and you save that for when it maybe is appropriate, and you continue to love yourself in the process, so you don't have the need to like jump the gun, so to speak, on that active form of love. I think you're gonna have a lot better choices. Not that you still don't have to be smart about your choices, because who knows, but I think you're gonna have a different. There's gonna be a whole different set of guys that you attract, and I think you're gonna have a better chance for what you're really looking for at that point as you continue
So
on in that.
is it safe to say looking? Should I even be looking? Do
Well,
I
let's put it
have
this
to
way.
look?
I
I don't
think
want to look.
that I think that the way you laid it out in the past, because of the energy of that, you may not have needed to look because somebody was always looking for you because they were on the significance hunt, you know. And
Oh.
so you may need to look more than you did in the past because you're not putting out there what you put out there in the past, and you may not be getting as much of the wrong type of suitor, right? So it may be you may need to actually be even more active in looking. Now I'm not saying that for sure. I mean I couldn't tell you, but it's possible that looking might be a more important thing that you bring to the table when you actually look for a different relationship, because the guys that you might find may not be actively on the hunt like the significance guys that you attract in the past. But with that said, Kenyatta, if you just keep putting out there who you became tonight, if you like let go of that whole significance thing and just be love, the kind of love that you have for your children, not the kind of love where it's like I'm gonna do this and prove to you that they got the best love for you, like brand X love, right? If you put that aside and just be loving, I think you're still going to attract guys. It's going to be a different type of guy, and the reciprocal will have changed if you continue to attract with that different energy, if you will. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Really, really great. And one last thing, and then we're going to continue here. Melinda actually asked, "What is the activity she's doing to love herself?" That's a good question. Here's the thing: if you're ultimately, if you really just love yourself, you probably don't even have to do anything to love yourself. In fact, that's kind of the perspective that we just talked about with Kenyatta, which was, she doesn't have to do anything to be loving. She doesn't have to do anything to love someone else, and she also doesn't have to do anything to love herself. She can just love herself, And now it doesn't mean that she can't do stuff as well. She probably want to do other stuff as well. But if she's just starting with just having love without having to do anything, kind of being a human being instead of a human doing, then there's a good chance that she'll attract what she's looking for, or she can actively look for it and then make even better decisions in that process as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue. We're going to move on. And so I will admit that I did go quite a bit over. I think I went at least like 30 minutes over my time limit. So wasn't quite the 47-minute life change tonight. So I do think I failed in my claim. And at the same time, I think that if you really listen closely to this, I think Kenyatta, you can agree or disagree, but it seemed to me that you're going to have a different life as a result of the distinctions that we covered tonight, and the fact that that you're never going to go back again to the old paradigm, the old belief, the old life. And so I appreciate you being a great partner with me in that and demonstrating like what these distinctions bring to the table. Yeah, see, there you go. No, you didn't. I will have a different life, Kenyatta says. So I appreciate that, Kenyatta. So anyway, the bottom line on this one is that all we did is go through the mechanics. And yes, I brought some experience to the table because I've used this a lot, right? And you want to build skill sets around this. But the reality is that you can absolutely create a life change within, maybe an hour and a half, all right? But in the ballpark of 47 minutes, depending on what the subject is and how quick you get with this as well. So that's the exact modality, the exact discipline that you learn in the Master Strategy Coach training and home study course. What I'm going to share here really briefly is just how this works. So first of all, and this is actually a part of Master Coach University, this is something that originally, as I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, was only something we did in Master Coach University. So for really the first time that we're making this available outside of just full enrollment in Master Coach University. So first of all, how does it work? Well, I set this up even in the university to make sure that you can learn this stuff fast. And there was a basic learning that you had tonight. To get it in depth, it takes some practice, there's no doubt. But it's something that over a period of about 8 weeks, you really can learn and ultimately start to master as well. I also wanted this to be inexpensive, but I also wanted it to really be the best training and the best methods to get these kind of results literally in one session, so that you can then move into even more empowering coaching in future sessions, and that your client is really a billboard for what's possible with working with you. Now, there are several different stages in the strategy training methodology that we put together to become a master strategy coach. And the first stage is the preparation stage. Now, in this stage, you're going to get access to 6 hours of preliminary video training to prepare you for the basic certification that's coming up very soon. You're actually going to take 2 different assessments. We're going to show you how we use these assessments to get results with clients during certification. Because the certification training is actually a key part of this process. I wanted to include that with this so you could have an overview of using these disciplines with strategy coaching. You'll also get access to an orientation webinar that's going to answer all your questions and make sure that you know what you're doing as you get ready for certification. And then finally, you're going to start studying the strategy coach discipline that we demonstrated tonight through an extensive, self-paced home study process. So you'll have all the materials that you see here at your fingertips so that you can actually just go through step by step, learning every element of what it is that we demonstrated here tonight. That includes a full manual, a workbook plus assignments, a full audio course that will take you through each of these steps to kind of guide you through the training process. And also we've created many detailed video guides of these different steps that we talked about. In fact, over the next couple months, this is something that we hadn't yet done and we're about to do. We're going to be taking deep dives into each of these steps: the diagnosis step, the leverage step, the empowering alternative step, etc., to give you like really a full video that covers every element of what I've really mastered over the years and what you're going to want to master as well in order to be able to produce these kind of results with people. So we're adding detailed video guides that are much more granular in nature on top of the videos that we've already put out there that are a part of this home study process. So this is all in the preparation stage. Then you move on to training stage. And in training stage, you actually come to hopefully a physical certification training. We've got one that's happening in May in San Diego, and then later in the year we have literally right at Disney, we have the November certification training, which is a really cool environment to be training in for certification. We also have a brand new virtual training that's now available. In case you don't want to travel or you can't afford to travel or whatever, you can go through these entire experiences, obviously without the face-to-face part of it, in the comfort of your own home, as long as you have access to the internet. There's a part of certification that I call transformation stage. And this is where we take you through a very intense process that actually uses some of the technology that we talked about tonight, but in even more detail. And this is a process that I've codified. I've learned from some of my mentors in the past, and we've set up so that during certification, you can go through it. It's about it's a multi-hour process. It's very intense, but what it provides you is the inner transformation to give you access to all the resources that you need to become the master coach that you want to become, and also grow your coaching business to the level that's possible and that you really desire as well. Like I said at the beginning of this webinar, I could give you all the strategies for running a coaching business, and I have them all. I could give you every technique, everything to say, everything to do, every marketing and every sales piece, everything for the business and for being a great coach, and you still would not achieve what's possible with those elements unless you have this transformation within you. And it's not that we're the only people that can provide it. It's just that that's needed. And so I wanted to make sure that was provided for you in this process, live in certification or in the virtual certification if you choose to do it that way. It's really best face-to-face because of the synergy of the group that we provide there, but that's part of certification training and the process that we have here. And then finally you get certification stage where you actually receive your strategy certification, or actually within certification you get certified for your participation in certification training. And that's really what's included in the Master Strategy Coach Home Study, the self-led home study course. So how do you enroll in this? How do you actually take part in it? Well, all of these goodies that we just discussed here, as I mentioned, of course, are included in the program. All of these, in the past, there have been times when we've offered this for as much as over $2,000, but I'm not going to charge that during this launch. It's not even going to be $1,000. It's not even going to be $750. If you want the home study version of this, that includes certification training and everything that we just talked about, during this limited launch, it's available for $599. Or you can even do a payment program if you don't have $599 available in your pocket today. 4 payments of $199. So it's just basically monthly payments that we set up. And so again, that includes 2 full days of intensive live training, extensive training videos, as we discussed, the full virtual home study course for becoming a master strategy coach, and then also your certification as a part of certification training. And that's for $599, or like I said, 4 payments of $199. Now, if you want to make sure that you have all the foundations in place, I would suggest that you get the premium option. Now, the premium option includes the Master Coach DVD course, which covers all of the advanced coaching disciplines, has an over 1,000-page workbook that goes along with that covers every single detail that you would need for even beyond the strategy coaching discipline, and also includes our widely used and very successful Quick Start program with the Quick Start Business course, and also the Quick Start Coaching Skills course that really lays the basic foundation of all of your basic coaching skills in the High Caliber Coaching Code. And all this will be included in with your premium package. This one's $999 or 5 payments of $299. And again, that'll include your Master Strategy Coach training, everything we already talked about, and the Master Coach DVD course and the Quick Start program. Again, that includes Quick Start Coaching Code. And also we have a live boot camp that's part of Quick Start program that you'll be invited to. So it's really 30 days of live coaching that's included in that. The Strategy Coach training will be shipped to you. In the basic level, you'll get a virtual version of this where you can download everything. You can print it out on your printer if you want. You can stream it from the web or just play it from your iPad or something. This, with the premium program, you actually get the physical home study course. So you'll get a full physical strategy coach training manual shipped to you. You'll get the physical CD set. You'll get a set of video discs as well, so you can watch all the videos from those physically, as well as some quick reference cards and some other things that we'll be shipping you, along with the physical DVD course as well. So this is great if you just want to have it in your hand, and also if you want all the foundational courses that we have included with what's really an advanced coaching discipline of mastering strategy coaching as a discipline. And again, this will include all these training manuals. Several of them are going to be shipped to you physically. And also the CD set. This is the physical CD set that you'll receive. And of course, all the online resources that we talked about before. So it's really like $1,900 worth of extras that you get on top of the physical course shipped to you. And these 2 programs that we just talked about, either the premium course for $999 or the basic for $599, comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you try it out, you can see the results for yourself. For any reason you're not completely thrilled, just let me know. I'll refund every penny of your investment on the spot. Basically what that means is you're changing lives within 30 days of doing this, or you don't pay. We just give you all your money back, no questions asked. How do you get this? Well, there's two ways that you can get this. One is you can call me tonight and get the ball rolling immediately. Obviously, if you're listening to this on a recording, you can't do that. I will not be available after tonight. But I will make myself available tonight, like as a one-time thing. Or you can wait until we actually open registration. You can get it online. Now, there's one other invitation I'd like to give you tonight. And that is that you can learn a lot if you just take those home study courses and take the Strategy Home Study course and do everything that it asks and watch all the videos and listen to all the CDs and just go through the whole thing and just go practice that with your clients. You will master what we demonstrated tonight, eventually. What I'd like to invite you to do is speed that process up if you choose to and apply to be a part of the Master Strategy Coach Immersion Training. This is a live training that we do. It's actually virtual. It's not face-to-face, so everything can be done over the phone. You don't have to travel for it. It takes place over a period of about 10 weeks, so you get over 10 weeks of live training with me, and we actually put you together with 3 to 5 clients. We place clients with you, and you practice strategy coaching with them, just like I did with Kenyatta tonight, and you actually get evaluated by them on a weekly basis. So over a period of like 8 to 10 weeks, you know, if you're coaching every week and learning all this stuff and soaking it up, you're going to be like a sponge soaking up coaching knowledge. And as you consistently get feedback, you're going to improve again and again and again. Over a period of about 10 to 12 weeks, you will master this discipline as a result of the ongoing training and practice that you're doing kind of under our umbrella of the immersion training. You also receive your Master Strategy Coach certification. This is the only course through which you can receive this certification from us, and application is required to be a part of this. You'll receive all your physical materials just like in the premium package, except that in just about a month we're starting this course. We're starting this immersion training, and it's fairly exclusive, and literally we have about 10 slots available for it maximum. We will not have more than 20 coaches that are going through that training, so you get a lot of one-on-one attention from me, get all your questions answered, and you actually have a chance to coach in front of me, on the phone, of course, and get feedback and have me kind of hold your hand as you're using these methods. This is the way to master this, if there ever was one. And like I said, you can learn this on your own, and I'm totally welcome you to do that, but also we see that a lot of times if somebody gets a home study course, they don't use it as fully, and if you go through this training and you just participate, you're going to master this stuff. Like, it's my job to make sure that you do that happens. It's just your job to basically show up. And along with the Master Strategy Coach Immersion Training, you receive a video iPod and quick reference card that has all of your materials and assignments on it as well. So how do you apply for the Master Strategy Coach Immersion Training? It's really simple. If you're ready, you just contact Fariel Allen. Here's her email, just farielallen@gmail.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that in the chat just in case you just want to do a quick copy and paste. There's her email. Best way to get her is email, really, because she travels a lot with other gurus that have bigger businesses than I do, and a lot of times she's not available by phone. So just email her at farielallen@gmail.com, FERYALALLEN, as in Nancy, @gmail.com, and then she'll get in touch with you, and she'll kind of shepherd you through the application process, because we make sure that the coaches that are in these immersion trainings and receiving these Master Strategy Coach certifications from us are going to be appropriate for the training, that they're going to be really great coaches, that they're going to use this stuff with ethics, and that they're also good candidates to work with us, and they're kind of ready for this as well. You can also wait until we open. Again, when we open, I'll give you the same kind of similar directions to apply, and I'll send you an application, and then that application will get you into the application process as well. So you can get in touch with Farewell immediately, or again, you can wait until we open. Finally, as I promised, for the slides and also for the full video recording, which I think we captured, of this webinar, just go to masterstrategycoach.com/webinar and just make sure you're signed in to that. Now, chances are if you're on this webinar, you already have signed in. So if that's the case, then you will receive this stuff via email. I'll get in touch with you. I'll just send you the stuff. You'll have it. If you're not signed in for whatever reason, just make sure you are, and then you'll receive the slides and the full video recording of the webinar. And now, time for Q&A. So I know there are already a couple questions here. I'm just going to chat. I'm going to roll back here. And feel free to type your question in the chat, and I'll open it up. I'll take us off of mute in a second. Doesn't she need to meet those needs within herself? Yeah. So Melinda, you sounds like you made the point even before we got to it. Really, really good. So short answer to that one, I think, is yes. Yeah. How does she meet her? No. Right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. So Melinda asks, how much of these survival needs should be met from within versus from within versus our life circumstances? That's a good question. Well, they're all, I think we clarified this when we talked to Kenyatta about it, which is they're always all met from within. They're always all met from within. It's just that we have beliefs that make us feel like we got to do something externally or have something externally or be in a certain situation externally before we give ourselves and the certainty or the significance or whatever. So they're all, the bottom line is you don't meet them from externally. You just make decisions that you're going to wait to give it to yourself until the external thing happens, and that's called a belief. That's just a set of rules and beliefs, basically. So, I don't know about what should be met. It's just they're all met from within. And look, different people have different frames of reference, right? But ultimately, all things outside of us are passing. So if we try to meet our needs from outside of ourselves, it's going to make it hard, let's put it that way. And, that is natural for a lot of people to do, no doubt. Okay, let's see. See you in Orlando. Great. Oh, very cool, on your birthday. Awesome, Melinda. Okay, and Kenyatta asks, what's the price of the immersion training? We're working that out right now. It's quite a bit more than the home study courses that we talked about tonight. But we will have that information when we launch, number one. And number two, you can work with Farewell on, number one, the tuition. Number two, working with her on maybe getting some support in terms of financing the tuition as well. Possibly even getting some financial assistance from us if you meet the requirements as well. So bottom line is, if you're going to work with us live in a training like that, it's not cheap. I put my personal time in. I have to pay mentors to work with you through that training, and there's more materials that we give you as well. And it's a very involved training. So yes, it's definitely quite a bit more than what we talked about here. And if you think you can think you could afford the home study course and you really want to go full out and get trained in this, then, just apply. We'll work with you on the finances generally, if there's a need to do that. Because, usually time heals that type of thing, especially if these skills play out in your coaching business, which they will. Because if you can do what we demonstrated tonight with any client, anytime, anywhere, and then you just run enough free sessions, you're going to get plenty of paying clients. Because, this is a rare skill that most coaches don't have. And then not everybody knows about coaching or has a coach, but even the ones that do usually miss out on this level of transformation for themselves. You provide this in a free session, or you provide this once somebody signs up, you're going to get a lot of referrals. You're going to get plenty of paying clients as long as you're around enough people that have anything to spend on any kind of ongoing coaching. So, make the commitment to do it, and then we'll figure out the finances over time. All right, great. All right, I really appreciate you sticking with this process tonight. You know, we had a 47-minute life change that took about an hour and a half, so I didn't quite meet my my outcome for tonight. But there's always next time, number one, and that I hope it really made a difference in what you're going to do with your clients, and maybe even for yourself in your life as well. So please let me know. Let me know what what you learned or what you got, or any other questions that you had that are coming up. And in the coming days, we're going to go ahead and launch. We'll be opening up soon. And leave me a comment on the new Master Strategy Coach blog as well, and I'll be answering those in the coming couple weeks as well. So I look forward to working with you in Master Strategy Coach Immersion Training, and even if not, I hope our paths cross again soon. And have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your night. Take care.